But if we listen to him in a statement with that understanding, an irrebuttable presumption emerges that he is not going to tinker with what was so appropriated when he appeared and presented the budget statement on behalf of the president. So, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to hear from the leader what has changed from motion to statement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, this is actually not question time. It's not question time, but it's an issue of public importance. We need to be able to explain some of these things to the understanding of the Ghanaian populace so that they could better appreciate what happens on the floor of the House. And so I'll call on the majority leader to offer an explanation as to why it's no longer going to be a motion, but now it's going to be a statement. Yes, majority leader.
Speaker, thank you very much. The Speaker, as the minority leader has indicated, initially, information from the minister to me was that it was going to work within the appropriated amount. The amount captured by the Appropriations Act. Subsequently, information came through that we may perhaps go a bit beyond that. If we're going to go a bit beyond the appropriated amount, that certainly will require a supplementary estimate to be submitted before this House. Mr. Speaker, if the exercise would not end in the minister requesting for additional amounts for expenditure, he only needs to inform us about the progress made thus far in the implementation of the budget, which is what a mid-year review is. Speaker, yes, Article 798 provides, where, in respect of a financial year, it is found that the amount of monies appropriated by the Appropriations Act for any purpose is insufficient, or that need is arisen for expenditure for a purpose which no sum of monies have been appropriated by the Act, a supplementary estimate showing the sum of monies required shall be laid before Parliament for its approval. To the extent that the minister is acting within the appropriated amount, it calls for information to the House. But I agree with the minority leader. If it goes beyond, this House, not the minority, this House has a responsibility to bring the minister back on track. It's the responsibility of the House, not the responsibility of a certain Harun Idrisu, the minority leader. So that is it. The information to us now today is just to inform us about the implementation of the budget, the bumps that we are experiencing, and what environment in the budget that may be required to be done. That is information. And if it should go beyond the appropriate amount, Mr. Speaker, I agree with the minority that in that case, we may require supplementary estimates. That's fine. It's not going to involve any supplementary estimates because we're not going to go beyond the appropriate amount of 145 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
Honorable members, I now invite the minister to present a statement to the House. And then after that, members have the liberty to make comments on the statement. Minister for Finance, you may now do so.
And why would you want that? Right, Honorable Speaker, honorable members of Parliament, I stand before you on the authority of His Excellency, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, to present the mid-year fiscal policy review of the budget statement and economic policy of the Government of Ghana for 2022 financial year. Today's presentation is in fulfillment of Section 28 of the Public Financial Management Act 2016, Act 921, and Regulation 24 of the Public Financial Management Regulations, LI 2378. Mr. Speaker, this statement is an abridged version of the mid-year fiscal policy review of the budget statement and economic policy of the Government of Ghana for the 2022 financial year. I respectfully request that the entire mid-year fiscal policy review of the 2022 budget be captured in the Hansard. Mr. Speaker, on 17th November 2021, I presented the government's program to build a sustainable entrepreneurial nation anchored on fiscal consolidation and job creation in the 2022 budget, the Ajenkwa budget. Our macroeconomic targets were designed to get us back to a path of debt sustainability and increased growth. These targets, Mr. Speaker, were underpinned by an aggressive program to mobilize 100.5 billion Ghana cedis in revenues and grants, with estimated total expenditure of 137.5 billion Ghana cedis. We aim to achieve an overall budget deficit of 7.4% for the year 2022. This was against the backdrop that economic growth had recovered from 0.5% in 2020 to 5.4% in 2021, and the fiscal deficit had declined from 14.7% in 2020 to 11.4% in 2021. While the prospects for 2022 are encouraging, our plans, like many other countries in the world, went awry. Mr. Speaker, the impasse in Parliament and subsequent development after the presentation of the budget in November 2021, both global and domestic front, have created enormous challenges for our economy. The deferment of the passage of our proposed revenue measures undermined the credibility of our budget, leading to heightened investor concerns, credit rating downgrades, and closed access to the international capital markets. These happenings, Mr. Speaker, have led to severe pressures on the cedi, which caused the currency to depreciate significantly. Additionally, in February 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine, a situation Mr. Speaker, additionally, in February 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine, a situation that worsened the already weakened global supply chains, exacerbated by high financing conditions, the surge in food, fertilizer, financing, and building materials and fuel prices that manifested in soaring inflation domestically. These have had a debilitating toll on the costs and standard of living of our people. Mr. Speaker, food prices are rising, fuel and transport fares are up, the cost of borrowing for businesses and households has increased, the cedi has depreciated, and the economic outlook has darkened significantly. Mr. Speaker, this state of affairs is quite a painful one for me to report to you. It is hard to see our people lament about the prices of basic commodities. These are difficult times for government and indeed for the finance minister. It is agonizing to hear our food producers complain about the cost of falling foodstuff from farm gates to market centers. This is not how we envision the economy. This is not what we planned and worked hard for. Recent challenges have overtaken us. Our duty is to work through these challenges, overcome them, and it's exactly what keeps the president and his team awake at night. Mr. Speaker, let me take this opportunity to discuss the issue of our return to the IMF. Yes, I know this government assured the nation of a Ghana beyond aid, and our plans and programs for economic transformation have been designed to achieve just that. And indeed, I did say that Ghana would not embark on an IMF program. We did not just say it, we also took measures towards the attainment of that objective, including the passage of the Fiscal Responsibility Act and instituting a number of irreversibility measures, and also launching the Ghana Cares Ofori-Atta program for economic revitalization and transformation. Unfortunately, unprecedented global developments, Mr. Speaker, over the past 2 years, especially in these last 6 months, have really and truly disrupted our efforts. Governments across the world have had to change course to tackle the current crisis. Governments that less than a year ago were busily talking about energy transition and green and cleaner fuels have gone back to firing their coal plants. Governments that are known for low taxes are now raising taxes to tackle growing deficits. These are not ordinary times, not for Ghana, not for Africa, and certainly not for the whole world. Right, Honorable Speaker, let us all acknowledge that the situation we are experiencing now is different. The global context we find ourselves in is the first of its magnitude in the Fourth Republic, and even before that. It is therefore disappointing when people want to pretend that these developments are purely domestic. It is trite knowledge, Mr. Speaker, that global developments, including the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine invasion, have really undermined and disrupted most economies. Governments across the globe are facing strikes and demonstrations as workers see their standards of living plummeting. With prices of goods and services jumping to heights not seen in over 2 generations. An International Monetary Fund staff team visited Accra from July 6 to 13, 2022 to assess the current economic situation and discuss the broad lines of our government's enhanced domestic program that could be supported by the fund. At the conclusion of the mission, Mr. Speaker, the statement by the team lead correctly captured where we are and why we are where we are. He said, Ghana is facing, and I quote, Ghana is facing a challenging economic and social situation amid an increasingly difficult global environment. The fiscal and debt situation has severely worsened following the COVID-19 pandemic. At the same time, investors' concerns have triggered credit rating downgrades, capital outflows, loss of external market access, and rising domestic borrowing costs. In addition, the global economic shock caused by the war in Ukraine is hitting Ghana at a time when the country is still recovering. From the COVID-19 pandemic shock and with limited room for maneuver. These adverse developments have contributed to slow economic growth, accumulation of unpaid bills, a large exchange rate depreciation, and a surge in inflation. Unquote, Mr. Speaker, from the fund. Mr. Speaker, let me be quick to add that we are not wavering at all in our resolve to turn this country around. Ours is a history of turning things around when the country is in crisis. When the MPP government took over the reins of government in 2017, we inherited a challenged economy under an IMF program. which we successfully turned around and exited the program in 27 months. Mr. Speaker, that is a fact. If the economy was not on track, we would not have been given the all clear. That was why by April 2019, satisfied with the stability that we had brought to the economy and the policies we were implementing to sustain growth, the fund gave us the all clear to exit the program. Ghana's growth rate had moved from 3.7% in 2016, the lowest since 1992, to average 7% from 2017 to 2029. We had cut the rate of inflation down by 33% over the same period to 7.9%. By the end of 2019, Mr. Speaker, average lending rates had dropped from the 30s to 23.6 and still dropping. Our trade balance was up, Mr. Speaker, to 2.3 billion. The cedi remained relatively stable. Indeed, the amount of our total revenues that we use to service our debt had dropped from 2018's spike of 73% to 58.9% by December 2019. We were certainly not out of the woods, Mr. Speaker, especially as revenues remained very low and we have been left with billions in arrears to pay, and more bills to pay from numerous contracts that the previous government had signed. Well, Mr. Speaker, we are certainly not out of the woods yet, especially as revenues remain very low, and we have been left with billions in arrears to pay, and more bills to pay from numerous contracts that the previous government had signed, where we had to pay for electricity that we did not need. Yet, we still found money to fund our own ambitious promises to Ghanaians. We still found the money to bring back or invest more in vital social programs that had been abandoned by the previous government. But, Mr. Speaker, we also knew the economy was still vulnerable to shocks. That was why we set out to introduce transformational policies that in the long term will put Ghana beyond aid. Key amongst them are the emphasis in education and vocational training, adding value to our economy through industrialization, digitalization, investing heavily in roads and railways, and rationalizing the power sector. Indeed, Ghana was touted globally as a success story. Investors were lined up to buy our bonds. Tourism had taken off with over 1 million visitors touring Ghana in 2019 during the year of return. Then came the outbreak of the pandemic, described in June 2020 by IMF as a crisis like never before. A crisis like never before. But the Akufo-Addo government stood up to its responsibilities to the Ghanaian people. I, the finance minister, who was widely described as tight-fisted, even by his own cabinet colleagues, had no choice but to do what the entire world was doing, which was to breach our own self-imposed deficit ceiling in order to save lives and protect livelihoods. We have demonstrated that we can transform this economy when we all come together and put our hearts and minds to it. Mr. Speaker, just as we did in 2017 and 2020, government is resolved to continue to provide the necessary leadership to turn the economy around. Let me assure you, on behalf of the President, that we will do it again within the next 2.5 years. To do this, Mr. Speaker, we'll proceed with great caution thoughtfulness, creativity, and grit. And as the old adage says, we shall hasten slowly. Mr. Speaker, we are currently developing an enhanced domestic program to complement the Ghana Cares of Atampa program to return us to a path of macroeconomic stability, debt sustainability, robust growth, and a Ghana beyond aid. We expect this program to be the basis of our negotiations with the IMF. In the coming months, Mr. Speaker, we'll continue to optimize and support our flagship programs and make strategic investments in the rail sector to increase production, enhance productivity, and create jobs. The Youth Start program will be a fundamental intervention to advancing an entrepreneurial nation to create jobs. Mr. Speaker, our iconic National Builders Corps program, which was initially run for 3 years and extended for an additional year, will be completed by 1st September 2022. The program, which engaged 100,000 young graduates, has prepared thousands of them for the world of work. So far, we have invested approximately 2.2 billion cedis. As they exit, the current cohort on the program are encouraged to take advantage of the Youth Start initiative and other existing programs in our drive to build an entrepreneurial nation. Government's policy is to support dynamic young entrepreneurs, access training and funds to build their businesses and become a significant pool of job providers for their fellow young people. Mr. Speaker, we however recognize that our post-COVID economic recovery has been uneven and risks remain high. According to the IMF, the global outlook is grim and has darkened significantly, and global uncertainty is exceptionally high, and 2023 is even more uncertain. However, in the 2022 budget, we committed ourselves to chart a course towards growth and fiscal sustainability, and this mid-year policy review reassets the commitment. Mr. Speaker, we've seen some major shifts in our budget assumptions compared to November 2021 when we presented the budget. These changes have led to reduced revenues, increased interest payments, and changes in interest rates and exchange rates. However, we are committed to staying within the appropriation for 2022. In spite of the underperforming revenues and strong external headwinds, we are not seeking additional funds in this mid-year review. We are determined to efficiently use the windfall from the upstream petroleum sector to make up for our revenue shortfalls and aggressively improve our revenue even as we rationalize expenditures. Mr. Speaker, the Bank of Ghana increased the monetary policy rate cumulatively by 450 basis points between March and May 2022, and reserve requirements to 12% to help address rising inflation and currency depreciation. This led to a significant increase in interest rates and financing costs and a drop in liquidity, leading to rollover pressures in order to contain inflation. Mr. Speaker, with this backdrop, I now proceed to give details of development for the first half of the year 2022 and also provide updates on the outlook for this year. Mr. Speaker, the global economy is engulfed in crisis and in margin since World War II, resulting in a conflagration everywhere. Global inflation and interest rates are at record high. Monetary policy adjustment in advanced economies are also tightening financing conditions for emerging markets. The Financial Times estimates that investors have pulled about $50 billion from emerging market bond funds in 2022 alone, the most severe net outflow recorded in 17 years. The outlook of the global economy has significantly dimmed, Mr. Speaker. According to the April 2022 IMF World Economic Outlook, global growth is projected to end the year at 3.6%, down from 6.1% growth in 2021. Across advanced economies, growth is projected at 3.3% in 2022, down from 5.2% recorded in the previous year. The sharp slowdown reflects surging commodity prices, soaring inflation, trade disruptions, tightening financing conditions, and elevated uncertainty due to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. In In addition to these factors, growth in sub-Saharan Africa is projected to slow from 4.5% in 2021 to 3.8% in 2022 on account of heightened security risk in the Sahel region. The World Bank also projects that global growth from now to 2024 will slow down by 2.7 percentage points. According to the UN this year, about 250 million people will fall into extreme poverty. It further suggests that a record 345 million acutely hungry people are on the brink of starvation, representing a 24% increase from 276 million at the beginning of 2022. Mr. Speaker, price pressures have continued to build in several advanced and emerging market economies, primarily due to escalating energy and other commodity prices and widespread supply chain disruptions. In response, inflation in advanced economies is expected to increase from 3.1% in 2021 to 5.7% in 2022, moderate to 2.5% in 2023. Similarly, inflation in emerging markets and developing economies is expected to increase from 5.9% in 2021 to 8.7% in 2022, before moderating to 2.5% in 2023. Mr. Speaker, our economy has been impacted by these global developments. The revenue measures outlined in the 2022 budget have underperformed, largely due to the delays in passing and implementing these measures. Inflation has surged to 29.8% as of the end of June 2022, as compared to 9% in June 2021. The cedi has been pressured against the US dollar by 16.86% between January and June 2022, compared to 4.1% at the end of 2021. These have contributed to rising costs of living and labor agitations. Interest payments have been reviewed upwards from 37.5 billion, 7.5% of GDP, to 41.3 billion, 7% of revised GDP, mainly on account of inflationary pressures and exchange rate depreciation, resulting in higher costs of finance. Mr. Speaker, in face of these adverse domestic and external headwinds, growth momentum has, however, been relatively resilient. The Ghana Statistical Service reports that the economy continued to grow, moderately growing at 3.3% in the first quarter of 2022. In addition, the Bank of Ghana's updated Composite Index of Economic Activity recorded an annual growth of 15.8% in March 2022, compared to 26.3% in the corresponding period in 2021, due largely to increased industrial production, increased credit to private sector, exports, and higher tourist arrivals. In the light of the significant changes in the global environment and our own unique challenges, we have revised our economic growth estimate for 2022 to 3.7%, down from 5.8%, as stated in the 2022 budget. Mr. Speaker, at the time of presenting the 2022 budget in November last year, we provided information on macroeconomic developments for the first 9 months of the 2021 fiscal year. We now have received updated information through the end December 2021, which I now present as follows. Overall real GDP for 2021 grew strongly by 5.4% compared to 0.5% recorded in 2020 and the revised 2021 annual target of 5.1%. Non-oil GDP growth also increased to 6.9% compared to a growth of 1% recorded in 2020 and a revised 2021 target of 7%. Overall budget deficit of 28.095 million, 5.6% of GDP, against a deficit target of 19.73 billion Ghana cedis, 3.9% of GDP. Primary balance for the period was a deficit of 7.618 billion, 1.5% of GDP, against a deficit target of 672 million, or 0.1% of GDP. Public debt to GDP ratio stood at 76.6% at the end of 2021. Mr. Speaker, Provisional Quarter 1 2022 National account statistics published by Ghana Statistical Service in June 2022 show that the overall real GDP growth for the first quarter of 2022 was 3.3%, compared to 3.6% recorded in the same period in 2021. Non-oil GDP for the first quarter of 2022 grew by 3.7% compared to the quarter 1 2020 growth of 5.3%. Revision to 2022 Macroeconomic Framework. Mr. Speaker, as I've already indicated, the macroeconomic environment has significantly changed, prompting the revision of the macroeconomic framework. Furthermore, based on the development for the first 6 months of 2022 and outlook for the rest of the year, we have accordingly revised the macro fiscal targets for 2022 as follows. Overall GDP growth of 3.7% down from 5.8%. Non-oil GDP growth of 4.3% down from 5.9%. End period inflation of 28.5% up from 8%. The overall deficit of 6.6% of GDP down from 7.4%. Primary surplus of 0.4% of GDP up from a surplus of 0.1% of GDP. And the gross international reserves of not less than 3 months import cover. Mr. Speaker, the 2022 fiscal framework has also been revised to the fiscal performance for the first half of the year, including shortfalls in the expected yields from the new 2022 revenue measures, the implementation of the 30% discretionary expenditure cuts and other expenditure measures announced by government earlier in the year. The other expenditure measures are the moratorium on foreign travel, except pre-approved critical and statutory travels, 50% cut in fuel coupon allocations for all political appointees and heads of government institutions, including SOEs, effective 1st April 2022, the moratorium on foreign travels, except approved, pre-approved critical on statutory travels, and 50% cut in fuel allocations for all political, including SOEs, etc. Government support for 15% of cost of living allowance to public servants, upward revision of the average weighted domestic interest rates, upward revision in exchange rate on account of higher depreciation, and revision of the benchmark crude oil price from $61.2 per barrel to $94.8 per barrel, and the benchmark crude volume from 59.5 million barrels to 58.0 million barrels. Mr. Speaker, accordingly, total revenue and grants have now been revised to $96.8 billion, 16.4% of GDP in 2022, down from the 2022 budget target of $100.5 billion, 20% of GDP, representing 3.7% reduction. Total expenditure, including payments for the clearance of arrears, has been revised downwards to $135.7 billion, 22.9% of GDP, from the original budget projection of $137.5 billion, 27.4% of GDP. Interest payments have been revised upwards from $37.4 billion, 7.5% of GDP, to $41.362 billion, 7% of revised GDP. Mainly on account of inflationary pressures and exchange rate depreciating, resulting in higher costs of finance. Mr. Speaker, the revisions in government's fiscal operations results in a fiscal deficit on cash basis of $38.9 million, 6.6% of revised GDP, up from the 2022 budget deficit target of $37.012 billion, 7.4% of GDP. The corresponding primary balance is a surplus of $2.46 billion, 0.4% of revised GDP, up from the 2022 budget estimate of a surplus of $435 million, 0.1% of GDP. Although the deficit, Mr. Speaker, is expected to be financed from both foreign and domestic sources, domestic financing will be the key driver while government works to regain external market access. Mr. Speaker, the following revenue measures will be pursued in the remaining half of the year. EVAT, The digitalization of our revenue mobilization processes remain a key focus. Therefore, the GRA is finalizing all relevant processes to facilitate the effective collection of VAT revenue. This includes a proposed amendment of the Value-Added Tax Act 870 to enable its electronic collection effective 1st October 2022. Property rates. It's fundamentally important that together with the Ministry of Local Government, we continue to assist and support the assemblies, not only to expand their revenue base, but to do so with optimal efficiency and effectiveness. Therefore, the collective efforts of the local government, the assemblies, and the GRA in launching an end-to-end digitized process will be realized in August. Extension of waiver of interest and penalty to December 2022, and introduction of upfront payment of VAT on importers not registered for VAT with implementation start date of 1st October 2022. Mr. Speaker, this government has kept faith with public sector workers. Not a single public sector employee was laid off as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Employees receive their full salaries, with frontline health workers receiving additional incentives. Since 2017, this government has employed an additional, Mr. Speaker, since 2017, this government has employed an additional 295,000 Ghanaians in the public sector, 20 being the highest, registering 84 new employees, 1,000 new employees. In spite of the prevailing global economic upheavals and the resultant fiscal challenges, government continues to pay salaries of all public sector employees on government payroll and has committed to pay a cost of living allowance of 15%. This ensures that public servants are motivated and public service nationwide continues uninterrupted. Furthermore, it shows government's commitment to the public sector. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, government is significantly investing in ongoing initiatives and programs to improve the lives of Ghanaians, facilitate economic and job opportunities, promote shared growth, and protect the quality of life of Ghanaians. Indeed, government has prioritized national security, food security, energy and road sector development, railway infrastructure, education and skills development, among other flagship programs. Mr. Speaker, on national security, the safety of Ghanaians in the face of complex security threats is a major concern to government, and we are using a significant amount of resources to ensure that we keep our country and our people safe. Considering what is happening in the West Africa region, it is important that we prioritize national security, and we have. Whilst it will not be prudent to disclose the full cost of ensuring the security of this state, let me emphasize that it is significant. As a result, the Ghana Armed Forces is implementing an enhanced surveillance program for the country's airspace and international borders through collaboration with other domestic security agencies. We are also aggressively pursuing the Forward Operating Bases program to improve response time and prevent cross-border crimes as well as terrorist infiltration. To further improve internal security, the Ghana Police Service has recruited and trained 5,000 additional officers to put more police in our streets. Intensified anti-armed robbery operations and intelligence-led swoops throughout the country. Mr. Speaker, COVID-19 pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine war have combined to disrupt supply chains and increase transportation costs, which are threatening food security globally. But what the people of Ghana care to see is that their government is doing about it to ease the impact here. To enable households and farmers cope and support stable food supply, government has taken the following immediate measures: place a temporary ban on grain exports, promote the use of organic fertilizer and cultivation of crops such as roots which require less fertilizer, monitor food and input prices to pick up early warning signals of potential food crisis in order to take prompt remedial action, and finalize modalities for the haulage of produce from farm gates in food-growing areas to market centers, especially the urban areas. Mr. Speaker, energy sector development. The stock of products at all depots. The timely intervention of the Bank of Ghana through the Special Forest Auction Mechanism is also expected to sustain continuous supply of petroleum products in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, we have seen in this country the damage that disruptions in power supply causes to businesses, large and small, from factories to hairdresser salons. As part of measures to improve transmission reliability of power supply and expand energy to all Ghanaians, we have between January to date completed the Kasua Bulk Supply Plant Point project, which comprises the reconstruction of a section of Gridco's 161 kV Winneba Malam transmission lines and tie-in works. The lights are on. Advance the Volta Achimota lot of the 161 kV Volta Achimota Malam transmission line upgrade project to 85% from 83%. Connected 58 communities to the national grid as at end June 2022, with several communities at various stages of completion, and commissioned the solar irrigation project at the Ho Technical University in March 2022 to promote renewable energy systems. Mr. Speaker, for balanced, sustainable energy partnerships that provide affordable power for industrial, commercial, and residential use, we have kept our promise and successfully renegotiated power purchase agreements with 6 independent power producers, namely Car Powers and Power, Early Power, Twin City Energy, formerly Amnesty, AXA Energy, and Senate. These renegotiated agreements are expected to have savings estimated at 13.2 billion over the life of the PPAs through a combination of reduced capacity and energy charges. In other words, we will be saving the Ghanaian taxpayer 13.2 billion from power contracts signed by the previous administration. Mr. Speaker, in spite of the revenue mobilizing challenges, the President is determined to fix the roads. Our Year of Roads program continues to be on course. Phase 1 of the agreement with the Sino-Hydro Corporation Limited comprising engineering procurement, Sino-Hydro Corporation Limited comprising engineering procurement and construction contracts for 442 kilometers of roads and 2 interchanges have gained significant progress, including Tamale Interchange project completed and commissioned, PTC Runabout Interchange project at 35% completion, upgrading of selected feeder roads in Ashanti and Western regions completed of a lot more to follow, and Sunyani Inner City roadworks at 63% completion. Other key road and bridge projects are also progressing steadily, including the La Beach Road projects, lots 1 and 2, which includes a 3-tier interchange at Nungwa, is 34% and 50% complete respectively as of June 2022. The phase 2 of the Obechabi-Lamte Circle interchange and the flyover on the Accra-Tema motorway. The Kumasi Lake Road and Drainage Extension Project, extension of the existing Abuabo drain and construction of the Tripatre bus terminal at 92% at the end of 2022. Upgrading of Salaga Ekumdipe Pandai Road at 70% completion. Partial reconstruction of Bojaso Adesu Road, Lot 1 at 98% completion. Work on the construction of 50 prefabricated bridges to improve connectivity within areas cut off by waterways in all 16 regions have been achieved with progress of about 80%. Mr. Speaker, under the Ministry of Roads and Highways Public-Private Partnership Program for Road Infrastructure, the design, build, finance, operate, and maintain Accra-Tema Motorway and Extension PPP project 27.7 kilometers is at the procurement stage. Site work are expected to commence in September 2022. The government of Ghana has made a strategic decision in line with the Public-Private Partnership Act 2020 to procure the Accra-Tema Motorway and Extensions project through GIF, with a mandate to deliver a GIF-led PPP financing solution where maximum funds are raised from the market, but majority ownership of the project remains of GIF on behalf of the Ghanaian government. The draft concession agreement between GIF, the Ministry of Roads and Highways, is currently under review by GIF, Ministry of Roads and Highways, the Office of the Attorney General, and the Ministry of Finance. When completed, the concession agreement is expected to be approved by the PPP Committee, Cabinet, and Parliament. The completed road will be tolled. Mr. Speaker, all new roads of this nature will be tolled. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Minister, resume your seat.
Mr. Speaker, the completed new road will be told to recover the whole life cost of the completed infrastructure, as well as pay lenders and provide a return to equity investors. The government of Ghana shall provide funding through GIF to take equity in the special purpose vehicle to be created by GIF for the project. Mr. Speaker, PPP projects must be self-financing and they will be told. Mr. Speaker, significant investments continue to be made by government towards the development of a modern railway network. We believe in this because we know that creating an alternative means of transport, especially for goods, will ease the pressures on our roads and future impacts of global crude price hikes on farm products. For example, government is within target to complete the construction of the new Tema-Bakadan rail line by the end of this year. The project is currently about 92% complete. The operationalization of the project is expected to enhance efficiency at the Tema port and provide the shortest possible transportation route between the southern and northern parts of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, government continues to implement key initiatives to enhance productivity, scale up entrepreneurship prospects, and build resilient systems. These initiatives underpin economic activities in a modern economy and safeguard our transformation agenda. Mr. Speaker, we have placed human capital development at the core of our national transformation efforts since 2017. We have invested $5.3 billion to enable 1.3 million Ghanaian children access to secondary education under the free SHS program at the end of 2021 to improve access to education. Out of the 571,892 registered JHS students, 555,353, representing 97.1%, were placed into senior high schools this year. This is significant. We are aware of reported challenges in accessing and transporting food for students in SHS, and we are fixing it. In response, we have engaged stakeholders and devised a program that ensures that schools will not be disrupted and our students are well fed. Government has also recently completed 17 additional projects, including classroom blocks, dormitories, staff bungalows, and libraries as part of infrastructure expansion in senior high schools to deal with the record increases in student numbers. Mr. Speaker, we shall not compromise on President Akufo-Addo's commitment to giving all our children the opportunity to be educated from kindergarten to university, without the ability to pay being a hindrance. Free secondary and TVET education are not under review. We'll continue to fund them, we'll continue to improve them, we'll continue to create efficiencies. Mr. Speaker, and eliminate waste. Mr. Speaker, thanks to the taxpayers, since January, 3.6 million pupils in 10,832 public basic schools have been fed with one hot meal every school-going day in the first half of the year under the Ghana School Feeding Program. The program provides employment for caterers, about 32,496. School feeding program remains an important initiative that keeps our children in school, provide jobs and income for several people, mainly women, and avoids stunting. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to report that work has commenced in our various stages of construction in 87 out of the 111 sites earmarked to Agenda 111 project. With the majority of contractors at various sites, we are well on course to bridge the health inequality gap and strengthen the health system nationwide. Furthermore, the following health infrastructure projects are expected to be completed by end year 2022. These are construction of 1 district hospital and 5 polyclinics in Western Region, Kontombra and Suam, Eluvu, Wassa, Donkwa, Bogoso, and Mpoho. Expansion and equipping of 4 selected facility projects in Aburi, Kom, Tetekwashi, Chibi, and Atibi. And equipping of Upper East Bolgatanga Regional Hospital Phase 2, and completion of 37 military completion of a military hospital, Mr. Speaker, in Kumasi. Mr. Speaker, it is important to recall that the timely intervention of the government to the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic preserved lives and livelihoods of all Ghanaians. The economic measures staved off a recession and have sustained the momentum of economic recovery from 0.5% in 2020 to 5.4% in 2021. Mr. Speaker, last month, I provided a comprehensive update on COVID-19 expenditures to this House. I welcomed your directive to the Committee of Finance and Health to further understand the expenditures occurred by MDAs under COVID. To complement this accountability process, I've also requested that the Auditor General audit the COVID-19 expenditure in line with its statutory obligations. Mr. Speaker, the COVID-19 related expenditure had to be met. They saved lives and provided inclusive growth. The impact of these interventions will certainly transcend the momentary challenges we face today. Mr. Speaker, developing the youth and sporting infrastructure remains a key objective of government. To empower our youth, we are implementing Phase 2 of the Skills Toward Employment Productivity to train about 1,500 youth in 6 modules: transport, app development, satellite installation, hairdressing, cosmetology, and dressmaking. Consistent with government priority policy on building an entrepreneurial nation, these trainings will be supported under the Youth Start program. Mr. Speaker, government wishes to congratulate the Ghana men's 4x100 meters relay quartet for their outstanding performance in taking the 5th position in the final at the World Athletics Championship in Oregon last Saturday. They did so by setting a new national record of 38.07 seconds to Sean Safuentry, Benjamin Azamati, Joseph Odrumeno, and Joseph Paul Amoa. A grateful country says, Ayiko. Mr. Speaker, Ghana was represented in various international competitions at which the following medals were won. The 5th Para Taekwondo Championship in Niger, 2 gold medals and 1 bronze. African Hockey Cup of Nations, Accra, Ghana, 1 silver medal. The National Beach Volleyball, Cotonou, Benin, 2 bronze medals. Mr. Speaker, Team Ghana is scheduled to participate in the upcoming 2022 Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, UK between July 28th and August 8th. The Black Princesses will also participate in the FIFA Under-20 World Cup in Costa Rica in August 2022. And finally, for this year, the senior national team, the Black Stars, will represent our nation at the FIFA World Cup in Qatar, November 2022. Government will ensure that adequate preparation is made to facilitate outstanding performance by these teams. We encourage all Ghanaians to continue to bear them in prayer and offer our support. Mr. Speaker, government continue to invest strategically in key sectors of the economy for catalytic results under the Ghana Cares program. Significant progress made under the program in the first half of 2022 include completion of the first phase of registering farmers and value chain actors in the northern sector, currently totaling 1.3 million farmers and 32,970 value chain actors. This has started impacting how agricultural interventions will be delivered to our farmers. Offering a 50% interest rate subsidy on loans of 5.95 million, providing 27.3 million Ghana cedis as guarantee cover for loans amounting to 94.7 million under GESEL, safeguarding 1,309 jobs. Training about 25,000 under the Youth in Innovation Agriculture Program initiative to seamlessly integrate into agriculture value chains. Commence upgrading of 3 culturally significant sites, namely Abri Botanical Gardens, 55% complete, Yas Antoine Mausoleum, and Jusuf Bisnyase, 58% completed, and the Pigwari Slave Camp near Paga, 73% completed. Launched the National Training and Retraining Program under the National Unemployment Insurance Scheme in July 2022 to equip 15,000 Ghanaians with employable skills for industrialization. Secured land and commenced processes to establish the Economic Enclave Program. This will create a viable ecosystem for the youth in commercial agriculture with an initial focus on rice and poultry value chains. The Youth Start Initiative. Mr. Speaker, since March 2022, we have successfully piloted the Youth Start program. Over 70 participants across the country went through a 2-week mandatory training to equip them with the requisite skills in entrepreneurship, financial management, good corporate governance, marketing, and customer service, among others. Mr. Speaker, a total of 1.98 million was disbursed under the pilot to 46 individuals and 8 associations, with membership of between 6 and 45 members, based on specific needs to enable them scale up their businesses and contribute to the job creation agenda of government. Development Bank of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, on the 14th of June 2022, government and entrepreneurs realized a long-cherished dream when we launched and operationalized the Development Bank of Ghana. This is a significant innovation and reinforcement of our financial architecture that will provide medium and long-term financing for commercially viable businesses and projects and focus, Mr. Speaker, on agribusiness, industrialization, and ICT. Together, we'll work harder to make the DBG a AAA rated institution able to access and disburse resources to finance Ghana's transformation with a 750 million capitalization. Mr. Speaker, despite global supply chain disruptions, Ghana's Automotive Development Program under the Strategic Anchor Industries Initiative continues to attract investment. In April 2022, Nissan commissioned the largest automotive assembly plant in Ghana in Tema with a capacity to assemble over 31,000 vehicles per annum. The expected commissioning of 4 additional plants this year, bringing the total to 9 global brands, will make this nation a true hub for automobiles in the sub-region. Mr. Speaker, digitalization is key to automation, data integration, and utilization in the modern economy. To this end, government continued the implementation of our National Identification Program, which is the foundation of our transformative digitalization agenda. As of June 2022, 16,895,108 Ghanaians were enrolled, out of which 15.7 million Ghana cards have been issued. Mr. Speaker, the President's vision to see Ghana producing what we use for ourselves and what our neighbors also need is unfolding right before our very eyes. Out of 296 1D, 1F projects undertaken since 2017, 125 are currently operational across the country. This is by far the biggest industrialization program our country has seen since colonial days. Seen against the 278 projects and 106 operational IDFs reported in November 2021, our industrialization agenda is progressing steadily, and we will urge more investors to see the current global supply chain challenges as rather an opportunity to invest in Ghana now, the commercial center of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Government, for our part, will continue to support 1D IFMs with technical assistance, tax incentives, and access to credit, including interest payment subsidies, to de-risk lending to create jobs and promote export orientation for transformation. Mr. Speaker, ours is a country of strong, courageous, resilient, optimistic, and joyful people. Indeed, it is amazing how we can find humor in the midst of the most difficult situations, which keeps our spirits alive. As a nation, we have gone through many difficulties, including the recent COVID-19 pandemic that devastated many nations, yet we survived. That is a testament to our resilience. We concede that times are difficult and things are not what we desired, but we believe in the overcoming spirit of the Ghanaian people, a spirit that does not cower in the face of challenges. It is this spirit that inspires us as a government to provide the leadership that is required. Mr. Speaker, our decision to go to the IMF again, despite what we had determined earlier, is a short-term measure for balance of payment support. In the longer term, we really need is a major structural shift in our economy. Speaker, this will also open up our re-entry into the international capital markets and friendly sovereigns who would support our program. The structure of the economy is still largely primary, despite the numerous attempts to structurally transform it through various industrialization programs. We are heavily reliant on primary commodities, extractive industry, and are price takers of the market. Our capacity and productivity remains low in both the public and private sectors. These are huge inefficiencies as well as limited skills to foster our development and improve the standards of living. In this regard, any adverse global development impacts us negatively no matter how efficient we manage the economy. This is what we intend to reverse. Mr. Speaker, that is why the President's vision of a Ghana beyond aid is critical, It is to reduce our vulnerability to global shocks. Over the last few years, the implementation of our flagships, including the 1D, 1F, the Planting for Food and Jobs, the Road and Railway Development Program, and our recovery program, the Ghana Cares of Batampa, will add value to our products. To increase productivity in both the public and private sector of the economy, to drive our transformation agenda, government will implement programs such as the Youth Start, as well as the training and retraining program to enhance the skills of Ghanaians, especially the youth. Furthermore, we'll promote a robust digital technology driven in architecture for unique identification to aid revenue mobilization, expenditure management, and enhance security. We shall improve connective transport and communication infrastructure that promotes national and regional trade and strengthen the financial ecosystem reinforced with the Development Bank of Ghana that supports Ghanaian enterprises and enhances inclusive growth. We shall further, Mr. Speaker, turn Ghana into a continental financial services hub and a continental financial services technology playground. Mr. Speaker, our forward march is underpinned by a significant investment in structural transformation. Let me emphasize that over the last 5 years, we have been in the prudent usage of our tax revenues. As a government, we have made sure that these resources are channeled into interventions that impact the life and livelihood of our fellow Ghanaians. Mr. Speaker, we have invested in the future of our children through free SHS, where 5.3 billion has been spent to enable 1.3 million students have access to secondary education. We have invested in the poor and vulnerable through the LEAP program. We have invested in hot nutritious meal per day to 3.2 million pupils in our basic schools and provided a steady stream of income for 32,496 acres. We have invested in construction and rehabilitation and upgrading of major road networks. We've invested in lives and livelihoods during the COVID through the CAP, bus, and other interventions, over 600 million cedis. We've invested in making sure that all public workers were paid every month during the COVID-19 pandemic, including the teachers who were paid for all the 9 months when the academic calendar was disrupted. We invested in ensuring that we provide adequate human resources for our public sector by employing 295,000 more people between 2017 and 2019. Of this number, 86,000 in the education sector, 146,000 in the health sector, and 37,000 in the security services. We have also, Mr. Speaker, invested in strategically placed industries in over 100 districts under the 1D, 1F program, and we are investing in the expansion of health infrastructure to every district under the Agenda 111 initiative. Mr. Speaker, for three years, we have provided relief for our people. We prioritize savings, lives, and livelihoods in spite of our fiscal condition. Mr. Speaker, government has always come during the difficult times, and we believe that together we will overcome challenges that lie ahead of us. Mr. Speaker, we are investing to grow the economy and create jobs for our young people, to be able to leverage opportunities created by AFCFTA. It is the most sustainable means of improving living standards in the long term. At this critical time, we are directing resources to regain economic stability. This is what Ghanaian households and businesses expect and deserve. With discipline, dedication, and hard work, we will overcome the current challenges that confront our nation. We are convinced we can do this again. We work closely with Ghanaians to turn around the economic situation in 2017, and we can do it again. Mr. Speaker, in the immediate term, we will strengthen our focus on efficiency in our fiscal operations and transformation efforts. To this end, we are aggressively improving revenue mobilization by adopting more innovative and comprehensive approaches, including technology, rationalizing expenditures, adopting policies to address inflation, promoting production and improving productivity, including implementing the Ghana Cares and USAID programs, and exploring innovative financing as illustrated by the recently approved 750 million Afri-Exim facility. Mr. Speaker, predictions on a changed global outlook since the war has manifested. According to the IMF, the outlook has darkened significantly and uncertainty is exceptionally high. The downside risks about which the IMF had previously warned have now materialized. Mr. Speaker, there is no crystal ball in predicting when these uncertainties will end. The pandemic, which has been at the root of the current worldwide torment, is far from over. Crucially, the global weekly average of COVID-19 infections has surged from 470 to 895,000 to 1.08 million between 31st May 2022 and 22nd June 2022. Even though the active infection rate in Ghana stands currently below 500, despite harsh economic sanctions and taxing diplomacy, we are witnessing a war of attrition in Ukraine with no end in sight. Monetary policy adjustments to tame surging inflation may persist over the medium term. We are also developing a new strategy to enable us to confront these uncertainties as part of the enhanced domestic program. This program will stimulate economic growth, promote fiscal consolidation, and enable us to re-emerge on the path of sustained transformation and debt sustainability. We have invited a fund to support key components of this program. Mr. Speaker, this program reinforces our focus on fiscal consolidation and debt sustainability. To demonstrate our commitment, we are not seeking additional resources despite significant challenges. We'll stay within the appropriation for 2022. Government will balance underperforming revenues and the adverse impact of the strong external headwinds with effective use of our windfall from upstream petroleum sector. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Finance will work with the Bank of Ghana in the coming months to provide emergency financing in the case of shortfall within the law, given the current unpredictable and challenging environment. The Bank of Ghana is also taking measures to help reduce inflation and has introduced critical measures to help stabilize the cedi, which is to exercise Ghana's first right of refusal to gold produced here, and for the first time in the Fourth Republic at least, build a strong gold reserves culture to protect the cedi as we move forward. Mr. Speaker, the collective achievement of this initiative will offer a more permanent respite and improve our capacity to withstand similar challenges in the future. Our economic prospects are bright, but we'll have to contend with recurrent external challenges and adapt quickly to a new environment. There will always be unexpected challenges ahead. These have to be carefully considered and measures put in place to resolve them. Mr. Speaker, we are confident because we have laid the key infrastructure upon which we can anchor this process of national growth. Mr. Speaker, we are even more confident of an imminent breakthrough because we have, Mr. Speaker, a track record, a plan, the discipline, the dedication, the competence, as well as the compassion for our people and our country. But most of all, Mr. Speaker, we have God who gives abiding grace for this new journey. He guided the Akufo-Addo government to successfully exit an IMF program in 2019. He will again use this government to successfully go through this program to redeem us from this. We will chart a sustainable course that will restore and improve macroeconomic stability, energize and expand economic activity, create jobs, and strengthen Ghana's structural resilience to future external shocks. Mr. Speaker, I serve a president who has shown by his deeds that he is deeply committed to the welfare of the masses of our people. Ours is also a government that is not afraid to make hard choices for the good of our country. I want to appeal to Ghanaians to keep faith with the president and his team. We know things are tough now, but we have a plan and the will to drive it. We want this House to do exactly what it did in the earlier crisis of 2020. Support us in our bid to reduce the impact of this global crisis on the nation and to tackle the vulnerabilities in our economy to make us prone to such shocks. The President wants the Sovereign House to be a strategic partner in government's effort to stabilize the economy and spur growth to create jobs. Ours, Mr. Speaker, is a proud history of finding solutions to our country's issues, the MPP government of the Fourth Republic. We have done it before, we will do it again, and with the help of this House and the support of the good people of Ghana, we shall come out of this stronger. As we claim the Lord's promise in Joel 2 to send his people corn, wine, and oil to satisfy us and eliminate this reproach. In this journey, we must eschew pessimism. That takes invaluable energy away from our forward march to transformation. As one people, we must speak the same language of patriotism to guarantee our own collective success. For a united country will have no restraint but victory, Mr. Speaker, in Kunim. Mr. Speaker, I'm thankful for the opportunity to be here to outline our programs. I'm grateful that we continue to engage and find sustainable solutions to our challenges. God indeed bless our homeland Ghana and make us great and strong. Mr. Speaker, I beg to submit.
Welcome back, and I don't know what your take is, a whole lot to digest. I'll be getting into them with my guests in the studio, but let's start from the start. A few of the things I noted, which they are going to be reflecting on anyway. So the finance minister said that government is committed to staying within the appropriations for 2022, and that they are not going to be requesting for further funding. That goes against part of what we're hearing, that there was going to be a supplementary budget, or basically they were going to be asking for more funding. He also says that it is hoped that the transformation of the economy will lead to transformation or a return to pre-COVID-19 levels. That is in 2.5 years. That is beyond 2024, let's say 2025. He also made mention, and we must just take a quick look at some of these facts. Of course, we know there's been a revised end-of-year GDP, both with the oil component and otherwise. Let me get to that. So GDP growth, the projected sum was 5.8%. It's been revised to 3.7%, a downward revision of about 2.1 percentage points. Non-oil GDP growth, 5.9%. That has been reviewed to 4.3%, downward as well. Inflation, of course, projected to be 8%. We all know is standing at 28.5%. Well, in fact, as in other circles, you would hear 29.8%. Fiscal deficit, 7.4%. That was the projection, now revised to 6.6%. And the primary surplus, 0.1%, now also upward 0.4%. Some interesting other things that were mentioned. Of course, what we have now is worth 3 months of our import cover. There was also talk, gentlemen, of the tax amnesty. Crucial. and some questions really that Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta failed to answer that we've been, asking ourselves here in the studio. We're talking about the fact that, look, in terms of the E-levy, for example, how much has been accrued? As of now, we do not know how much exactly has been accrued from the E-levy. We still have no idea what the details are, and that is a big worry. We're hoping that the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, would make mention of this. He did not make mention of any such thing. And so for now, we're all in limbo. Gentlemen, I'll be coming to you on these points and your quick reflection on all of what Ken Ofori-Atta said. There was something else. It keeps slipping my mind. The other detail that I wanted to bring up, apart from the E-levy, we also wanted to know
the cost savings.
The cost savings, that is exactly what I was looking for. So the cost savings that government has made from the 30% cut of the executive emoluments or payments, 50% on fuel, the travel bans and all of that. How much exactly have we accrued from those? Still no answer to those questions. I'll start with Gilbert on this point.
Great. So I think that the finance minister has given us, an overview of what has transpired over the mid-year. But like you did indicate, it would have been great if we could have gotten some figures in terms of the savings they've made in some of these cuts that you did allude to. And once you have a figure to these particular measures, then there is a base for measurement, and there's also a base for us to assess the reallocation of these funds into other sectors of the economy. And I think that unfortunately, we were not able to hear that. Maybe later on, they may provide further details on that. I would also like to touch on the tax amnesty. I think that has been a very good measure. I think they brought a tax amnesty, and it was supposed to have ended by the 31st of December 2021. It was extended to 30
by 6 months. Now it's been extended by another 6 months.
I think that is good news for taxpayers. And the reason for saying so is that, it gives room for taxpayers hitherto who were afraid, let me put it that way, to maybe go to the GRA and say, look, I've erred in this area. This is the quantum in terms of the principal and in terms of what the interest in respect of that principal, for that interest or that penalty to be set aside for that taxpayer. We have been at the forefront of this. The challenge for me is that would taxpayers understand the processes of taking advantage of this? That's what practically is happening now, because in terms of documentation, how to document the returns, how to populate it, how to do the quantification, is something that taxpayers would need assistance, and it's very important that they take advantage of this. But I'm just also asking myself, it would have been also wonderful if we could have known how much government have raised as a result of this tax amnesty exercise. How much have you raised? What has been the tax cost? Because you are setting aside penalties and interest. In terms of quantum, what is the tax cost? And it's a tax cost to government because it should have been revenue. So you do the cost-benefit analysis and say, okay, fine, this would have been the cost. But if you look at what we have gained by this policy, it suffices to say that we then extend it to year end. But of course, they may not only be looking at that, they may also want to use that as a tool for expanding the tax bracket. So that aspect is also there. But I think that it would have been wonderful if we had gotten some figures in that regard. Now, the finance minister also made mention of implementing the property rate. This was in...
Pardon my coming in, Gilbert. Let me just announce that we still have Setekbe, former finance minister. So I'll let you quickly wrap on that point, and I'll bring in Setekbe to share his thoughts on the delivery. Honorable, just hold on for us. In about a minute or two, I'll come to you with your reflections, and then we'll take it from there. Gilbert.
Okay, so one other thing that is also troubling my mind, let me put it that way, is the introduction of E-VAT invoicing scheme. I did reiterate the fact that in the earlier budget that was presented, government alluded to the fact that they were going to implement the implementation of the physical electronic device. Now, the focal or the objective of this policy is to rake in revenue in real time, to be able to know in terms of VAT what has been collected at the various, collection points. And I did indicate that that law has been passed, but there's still, maybe it is yet to see the light of day. So how do we just oppose this with the introduction of E-VAT invoicing scheme? I feel that possibly we are bringing in additional policies, but the already existing ones, how operational have we put it to use?
Look, I was sharing in the background while we were talking a while earlier that even activating the E-levy, for example, comes with cost. We are also raking in revenue, which is why we ought to know, cost-benefit analysis. How much have we got from the E-levy? In terms of what we are pumping into the infrastructure, how much have we pumped into it? Is this like a Pyrrhic victory where you are winning, but the cost of winning is so expensive that, in other words, you are losing? And all of this, the finance minister, conveniently did not make mention of. And I found that rather curious. But is that your final point?
Yeah. The other point I would want to add.
So quickly on that.
Yes, quickly, is what the introduction of the upfront payment of VAT on importers not registered for VAT purpose. I think that maybe there may be some administrative guidelines on this because from where I sit, it's not that clear to, because at the point of importation, unless the item in question is exempted from VAT, any importer will be required to pay VAT at the port, at the point of importation. It forms part of your import declaration form, where the duties you have to pay, the levies you have to pay are all set out clearly on that form before the VAT is also calculated. So I think that maybe I'm not clear in my mind. I have my senior most colleague on the platform in the person of Setekpe. He is very versatile in VAT.
And we'll be hearing
exactly.
From them.
So maybe he may have a deeper insight than what I am shedding light on now. But then I think that there's a disconnect there.
There's a disconnect. Let me move on to former Finance Minister Setekpe. You followed the entirety of the proceedings. What is your reflection on them, especially on the points of concern that we've made mention of? Savings that government claims it has made. We have no idea. 30% cuts, the executive, budget 50% on fuel, travel ban and all of that. How much exactly has been saved? We do not know. We also do not know the real dynamics when it comes to the E-levy. Your reflections?
Thank you very much. You can have an idea of that, and maybe you can lead with the questions because I have quite a few. You can have an idea of that. The expenditure is to go down to 135 billion, not so significant, but also remember he said the revenue is to go down from 100 billion to 96 billion. In terms of deficit, when you subtract the two, there's no savings because the deficit remains at 37, 38. And we had calculated the deficit to be 43 billion actually because of what we think was an arithmetical, error. So yes, there may have been a saving on the expenditure side, down from 137 to 135, if my memory serves me right, and then the revenue is also going down from 100 billion to 96 billion, which I think is still optimistic, but we can, give the opportunity. Now, but on a bigger note, I think that we miss an opportunity to send a signal, to the markets and to the IMF in terms of our preparedness for negotiations and in terms of opening the doors, access to the markets, which he mentioned, for which reason he said we were going to depend in the meantime on the domestic market. We know the performance of the domestic market has not been stellar anyway, We know there has been auction shortfalls. We know that government has had to increase interest rates, and it will result in crowding. I think these are things which we have been discussing, all along. So there seems to be no change in policy there. Whether let me run through a couple of issues. E-levy, my position is clear. I like our professors and others to go to economic history. And for them to understand.
Mr. Tekpe, having held on for so long, I sincerely apologize for having to do this. Just hold on a little longer for us. Very interesting, the points you're making. But there's a press conference, a presser basically being put together by the minority. They are speaking now. We would like to catch snippets of that from Parliament.
Qualified to get Ghana card. But as we speak, less than 2,000 people have Ghana card in Adaklu, because they feel that many of the people in Adaklu will vote against NPP. So the best thing to do is to disenfranchise them. It will not happen. I call on people of this country to send a message to NPP. Whatever you do, you have lost this election. No amount of propaganda and lies will save you. Thank you very much.
Guys.
Yeah, go on.
Good afternoon. Let me start by saying that Ajegong, things fall apart. Things fall apart in the sense that credibility matters a lot in economic management. Forecasting is everything. The 2022 budget, I recall when it was read first in November last year, got investors very jittery, and as a result, they started exiting Ghana's market. Today, the minister's media review of the 2022 budget is worse. The media review document that he just presented is nothing but empty. Nothing but empty. We have a country that is in crisis economically. Everything in this country is not working. Yet the minister responsible for finance appeared before us and said nothing. He failed to address the very concerns of the ordinary Ghanaian. Today, he comes here once again only to tell us that he has missed all the targets he set in the 2022 budget. Every one of them, he could not achieve it. Everyone, he has missed them. Only for him to propose target that he's going to miss again in the year 2022 by the end of the year. For example, the Bank of Ghana reported to us that in the first half of the year 2022, June, the fiscal deficit is approximately 6%. Only for the Minister of Finance, who has already done first half of the year fiscal deficit almost 6%, to tell us that by the end of the year, the fiscal deficit will be 6% again. How possible? How possible? At the time that you have revised your revenue down by 3.7 billion Ghana cedis, you have only cut expenditure by 1.8 billion Ghana cedis. So in total, the net effect is that you are increasing your fiscal deficit by 2 billion. Yet he's telling us that the fiscal deficit is coming down. How can this be possible? Again, our minister responsible for finance informed all of us that the GDP growth for the year 2022 has been revised from 5.8% to 3.7%. I beg to say, even the 3.7%, he cannot achieve it. Fitch has just informed us that the GDP growth for the year 2022 will be 2.5%, the worst ever in the history of Ghana. Colleagues, things fall apart.
Well, Dr. Ofori-Atta Forson, the ranking member of the Finance Committee of Parliament, sharing some thoughts. He started with Ajegong and things fall apart. He was just making mention of that latest Fitch downgrade. What we know is 2.6%. He just said 2.5%. But he is saying, gentlemen, that basically even that revised GDP growth target of 3.7% is not going to materialize. Let's reconnect with Dr.
You get public buy-in. It's a missed opportunity. The minister has missed an opportunity to tell the true state of Ghanaian economy to the people of Ghana, for all of us to accept it and get a buy-in. Unfortunately, we only heard propaganda and things that are not possible, only for him to report to us that he has missed every target and is going to even miss more, and set unrealistic target that is going to drive this country further into the ditch. This government, all what they know to do most is that they think that every problem must be confronted with a debt. I call it one problem, one debt. One problem, one loan. One P, one L. That is what this government is practicing. Today, our public debt is in excess of 400 billion Ghana cedis. Yet the minister in this document failed to talk about public debt. He failed to talk to us that Ghana is not in a position to be able to repay our debt. I was thinking that he will use this opportunity to address the issue of debt restructuring. Colleagues, let me be honest with you. Our country is now highly indebted middle-income country. IMIC. Our position is worse than the HIPIC days. That is where we are. I expected the minister to be truthful, candid, and be able to confront the problem head-on. But unfortunately, what we witnessed today is nothing but incompetence. We've seen incompetence at the highest level. I've never seen anything like this since I became Ghanaian. Unfortunately, our country is in bad hands. The Ghanaian economy is in a bad way, but I have not seen a government ready enough to deal with the situation. I call on His Excellency the President to conduct an immediate reshuffle so that this economy will be back to proper hands. I'm saying this not because I'm an opposition MP, but I'm saying this because I'm a Ghanaian first. And I care about the direction this country is going. If the country gets worse, it affects all of us, not only NDC or MPP. It affects all of us. So please, let's get serious here. This is people's pocket. The economy is your livelihood. The economy is your pocket. It's your child's future, and we cannot be toiling with it. This government has shown that they are not ready to govern. And I want to say that if they are not ready, they should hand over the government to some of us. That is ready to deal with the situation. We can assure you that if given the opportunity, we'll confront the problem head on and take Ghana back to prosperity. We've done it again before and we'll do it again. What I've seen today is sad. I'm saddened as a Ghanaian because it's a big missed opportunity. Don't be surprised that by the close of today, our bonds in the international market will start getting worse once again because this piece of paper needs to be flushed in the dustbin immediately. We need to shred it into pieces because it is empty and useless. Thank you.
Yes. We want to go. Let me. Okay. No. Okay.
Addition is not suppression.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think my ranking has explained a lot of the concerns that we have with this media review. First of all, I want those of you who have access to the Public Financial Management Act to go and read Section 28 and be abreast with what he was required to come and do. He was required to come and tell us how the budget has performed as at this time, by June, the 6 months. What is the total revenue you have raised? And then give us a table of the various revenue yields that led to that total. He is supposed to give us the total expenditures to date, so we know what the deficit is, and we know what the primary balance is. But also to tell us the development within the real sector, the banking sector, the capital markets, and all other things that impact our lives. He did not tell us how his budget has performed to date. He basically just went ahead to tell us what he's projecting by the end of the year. That is not the requirement of a media review. The requirement of a media review is that you must tell us budget performance as at date. Now, I want you to take your time and look that his GDP is not performing, and that the GDP performance is projected to grow at 3.7% from 5.8%. What it means is that we are not doing well. Is that not the case? The minister says that his revenue will decline from 100 billion to 96 billion. Is that not what he said? The minister says that he is providing COLA of 15% on his wage bill, which gives you 4.6 billion. The minister says that his interest payment has gone up from 37 billion to 41 billion. That is an additional almost 3.8 billion. When you put these numbers together, the drop in revenue, which is a shortfall to be filled, the increase in interest payment of about 3.8 billion, the increase in COLA of about 4.6 billion, the minister is adding exactly 12 billion to his expenditure. And yet he tells you that he will still stay within the appropriation. Now you notice that the appropriation, he says it moves from 137 billion to 135 billion. Let's grant that that 2 billion is the 30% he's cutting in expenditure. You will notice that he would have now increased the deficit from the 38 billion he's quoting to about 49 billion if you add the figures that are quoted earlier of about 12 billion, which is about 50 billion. So if you add the 12 billion to his 38, you are getting about 50 billion. Subtract his 2% he's cutting from expenditure, and you are getting a deficit of about 48, 49 billion. So clearly the man was coming to ask for more money. So you notice that the original order paper came by a motion, and that motion was that he was going to request for a supplementary estimate. When he didn't like the mood of the House, he went and brought an addendum to say that he's now coming by a statement because he doesn't need money. But the numbers I'm giving you shows that he is spending close to 12 billion in excess of what we approved earlier. So the original intention is what it is, that the minister is going to spend more than appropriation. Even though he's spending more by appropriation, he says tell you that his deficit will rather decline from 7.4 to 6.6. You know how he did that? He came and then revised the GDP. The GDP that is declining by 5.7 to about 3.7. He revised it to 592 billion from 500 billion. You know why he did that? When you revise the GDP, it means that whatever figure that sits on the GDP, because the GDP is now bigger, that figure will become smaller. So he's able to get a deficit of 6.6% by artificially cooking a GDP that doesn't exist. You see, when I tell you that that man is a danger to us, you think that it is personal. No serious ethical person will do what he came to do. That you are cooking your numbers, you are adding to the expenditure, your revenues are not performing, your expenditures are going up because your interest payment is more. You are paying more COLA. As a matter of fact, your economy is not performing because the GDP is struggling, but artificially you are able to get a higher GDP to suppress the deficit. You are able to cut off all the additional expenditures to suppress the deficit. So Ken Ofori-Atta is digging the grave to go to jail tomorrow because we will properly audit these numbers. And it will show that today, what he came to do today was what he originally put on the order paper, which was to ask for more money to spend. But he didn't have the confidence to do that. 2, he says the IMF arrived in this country on a particular date and assessed our economy. Why? How did the IMF arrive? You invited them. Is that not the case? Is it difficult to tell Ghanaians that we call the IMF to come? He doesn't want to say that. He says that the IMF arrived in this country on what? On what? Is it Article 4 review? Or is it a surveillance visit? It is an emergency call, an SOS call, that they should come and save you because you cannot manage the economy. That is what it is. Now, did you hear anything on your banking and financial sector? Did he tell you anything about your banking and financial sector? Did he tell you anything about the capital markets? As we speak today, just last week, He had maturities of about 4.9 billion. He went on the market, he got only 1.1 billion. I don't know how he's going to pay the balance of almost 3.8 billion Ghana cedis. It is becoming clear that a man who cannot borrow in Ghana, he cannot borrow from abroad, his revenues are not performing, is able to get money to spend a lot of money. Only one thing is happening. The Bank of Ghana is printing money and throwing those monies at the bank, at the government. That is illegal, it's preposterous, and we will do everything to get to the bottom of that matter. But as it is today, nobody listening to the finance minister today will have confidence that the country is going forward. He is still there talking about Ghana Cares or Batampa. Do you know what that is? Do you know what that is? He's been saying it for 3 years now. Even their MPs don't know what is Ghana Cares. Were you not here when the majority leader was complaining that even MPs and ministers don't know this Ghana Cares? You say enhanced domestic program. What animal is that? They are doing your DSA. You are supposed to be engaging Ghanaians to get us along to develop a program to go to the IMF and have a negotiation. As we speak today, have we heard of any stakeholder engagement? The man is still roaming around and speaking big English. I don't know, today, fortunately, I didn't hear him quote the Bible. But somebody had hinted me that he was late in coming because he was looking for his white captain. And after getting that, he was now looking for verses of the Bible. Today, he didn't get it, so we didn't hear a lot of it. But our country is messed. The capital markets will rattle on account of this. And I'm sure our development partners were shocked that the minister was going to ask for more money in a supplementary estimate. Because he was getting calls to answer those questions, he ran away. But you also heard that he didn't mention the reserves. Did you hear the reserves? Now today I want to tell you that that reserves that the Bank of Ghana cooked and released last Friday after our press conference is of no consequence. The Minister for Finance said the reserve moved from 9 billion to 3 billion. Is that not it? Have they ever achieved a net international reserve of 9 billion before? It's gross. So if the minister said 9 billion to 3 billion, he was referring to gross international reserves. So the 7.6 billion gross international reserve cooked by the governor is in excess of $4.6 billion, which doesn't exist in the Bank of Ghana. So ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow we will start the debate. But suffice it to mean that our country is doomed, and I want to repeat my call on the president to sack Ken Ofori-Atta if he will not resign voluntarily. Thank you very much.
All right, so Dr. Cassiel Atuforsen speaking, now Isaac Adongo. We also saw Kwabena Mintah-Kando lurking in the background. He didn't get to speak. It's interesting, just to let you know, after we reconnect with Seth Tekwe, we've seen some nurses around as well. We'll try to interact with them. They were picketing at Parliament earlier in the day, nurses from the 2019 batch. But back to you, Mr. Tekwe. Thank you so much for your patience.
No, you're welcome. I think those were very informative because some of them were exactly where I started, my intervention. I did mention that we were not sending, the statement did not seem to send any signal to the capital markets, considering that the minister was concerned with lack of access, and he was talking about domestic, turning to domestic financing, which we know is already has a problem. I also mentioned that he did not send a signal, not just to the IMF. Remember, when you are negotiating, you have the World Bank, African Development Bank, development partners, and others at the table. That is what it has always been since Dr. Boju's, structural adjustment program time. No signal seems to have been sent because the fund mission that came, and Honorable Adomo is right, came for fact finding. You can go to the release that they made when they came in to update their data. It wasn't to assess the economy. Assessment of the economy comes in Article 4 or surveillance or in a program. So if anybody wants to know the true state of the economy, I recommend the Article 4 that was done in 2021, which raised a number of issues which have not been answered. For example, when the minister went back to tell us about the 2021, figures, you could see that he was talking about debt below 80%, deficit, below even the 11% which was, in that budget. Frankly speaking, our debt at the end of last year was above 80%. Our deficit, adjusted for bailouts and arrears, is significantly higher. And in Article 4, it is projected our deficit could be as high as 17.5% as of last year.
Mr. Tekpe, just to clarify, Article 4 of what?
IMF Article 4, 2021.
Okay.
Which was conducted, which was conducted and released last year, July. I entreat everybody to read it. So the fund knew what they were coming to update. Another example, there was no COVID audit when they did the 2021, so it's not new. The other, major example which, I like to give is that energy sector arrears, which we call the bailout. The reconciliation, the last time the reconciliation was done, which was given to the fund, was in 2018. So these are the issues which the fund came to update, in preparation, for a negotiation. It didn't constitute an assessment at all. And so, but let me move on. The minister seems to have sent a no compromise, on free SHS. The fact is that my position remains the same since 2017. Free SHS in its current unfettered form is not sustainable. And I think the evidence is coming from head teachers. There's evidence is coming from, we saw the student nurses who were struggling for food, the picture was going around. We saw head teachers saying that they are going to impose, fees, then they are silenced. We saw the reaction is coming. It's coming all over. We have been sustaining it, through, debt, borrowing heavily, average of 2 billion or more. In fact, if you want a concrete evidence, you can go to the parliamentary papers for the 2019 bond. 2.2 billion Ghana cedis of that bond was used to support recurrent free SHS, in addition to capping and all the others. So we should be asking ourselves as Ghanaians, it's not the fund that's asking us to be, whether we are able to finance the free SHS. I think it is quite obvious. Let me run through quickly a couple of specific points. To my colleague, on the panel, the upfront VAT is nothing more than extending the withholding VAT scheme to the import, VAT arena. That currently it is to the import arena. Currently it is on domestic, withholding. What it means is that if you are not registered, those who are not registered for VAT are going to pay, withholding tax, at what rate? Withholding VAT, which is mimicking the income tax withholding that customs collects on behalf of the domestic tax, division, revenue tax division. So we are going to extend the same thing. But remember that, when you import, it doesn't matter whether you are registered or not registered. You pay the import VAT. So is this going to be in addition? Because the import VAT is not dependent on your registration. The import VAT is in the tariff and everybody pays once you bring in and the goods are taxable. So this is going to be in addition, to that. Mind you, these VAT registered taxpayers who are not registered for VAT are already imports. Many of them are caught in the VAT flat rate scheme, which is in existence. So we are just seeing a complete distortion, or we are going to see a complete distortion.
You're talking about the standard rate.
That's even the presumptive tax. When you talk about the standard rate at import, yes, they pay at import, but they cannot, because they are not registered, they cannot claim input tax credit or refund. So already that is cascading, as we say, in VAT. In addition, you are going to impose a withholding. and they are not registered. Many of them who are not registered for import purposes. And I hope that if this policy is going to be implemented, then the registrations for the VAT flat rate scheme should be given to customs so that they don't, pay, withholding tax upfront, or they are giving the imputed credit. Well, nonetheless, we would wait for the technical notes, from GRA so that we can do justice. But this is my, interpretation. Tax amnesty, like many measures, 5 years. We haven't seen a report on it. And we know that tax amnesty, yes, it helps, taxpayers to come clean. But it also sends a bad signal, to taxpayers who are paying their taxes duly. They are paid duly, and then those who are not paying are being rewarded. And the study is there that it has not really made an impact, in many countries. I have said before that the property, tax, which the central government is eyeing, has always been an MMDA tax since, colonial era. The central government has never taken a portion of that. Now, remember, the central government is capping the DACF, and the central government is now going to take a share, in the name of VRA collecting property taxes from the same, MMDAs that have a cap, on the DACF, and the releases are not even going. If GRA is going to collect, the tax, fair enough. We were considering that the same property, particularly commercial property, attracts rent tax and is the same basis. They should collect and maybe get an administrative fee. But I think the government has never told us what rates they're going to take. We haven't seen any legislation because this is in the MMDA Act, and therefore Municipal Authorities Act, MMDA Local Government, Act, and it will require an amendment. Otherwise, we are going to see a replay, of the Kayayi tax, which was announced with all fanfare, but there were no resolutions from the assemblies. I'm saying that because I've been an assembly member anyway. It's one of my, as a government appointee, so I know the processes, quite well. Let me touch on E-levy, and if you permit me, I will pause after this so I don't take too much time. But if you permit me quickly, I will share. If you can enable me, I can show you the list of levies that we have currently on our books.
Okay, so Mr. Tekwe, this is what I want you to do. I'll be wrapping with you in the next 4 minutes. So I want you, maybe you can use 2 minutes to give us that list. Then my final bit I want you to look at, are you hopeful at all as far as this mid-year budget review is concerned? Of course, we didn't get any details on the E-levy, how much we're raking in and all of that. So how hopeful are you? I mean, how bad is it? And then you can make the other points that you want to make. So within the next 3 to 4 minutes, you can encapsulate both of them.
Yes, okay. Could you allow sharing so I could share it quickly? But whilst we are doing that.
Okay, so my technical team will allow sharing. So Mr. Tekwe can actually share what he wants, put it online, and we can see, and we'll take it from there. But you can start making your, yes, without that, Mr. Tekwe.
Yes, okay. I'm not, let me say that I'm not too optimistic because as I indicated, this is, Ghana is in a very serious situation. And one would have thought that we missed an opportunity to send the signals, that we are quite serious, in negotiating with the fund and in sending signals to the capital markets. These are the levies that we have on our books, right? As at the last budget. So you have the national. This was supposed to be arrears, the first one. Then you have the National Fiscal Stabilization Levy, which should have ended, in 2017. That's the yellow mark that I have there. FinSec Cleanup Levy. The blue tells you when they were implemented. Then you have the Petroleum tax levies introduced in 2016, which, were part of excise. You have the road fund, enhanced road fund levy, which should have been part, of ESLA and should have gone away, including the enhanced energy. You have straight levies, NHIL, you have straight levies, debt fund, you have E-levy, which, is there and is just coming in. You have a COVID health levy. You have the yield from capping, which is nothing more than a levy, as I said, of the statutory funds. And earlier in the morning, there was a discussion on IGFs. All those IGFs are subject to capping, for our information. You have a luxury vehicle, levy. You have an energy debt. These are the ESLA levies that should have gone away. Energy debt recovery levy, price stabilization and recovery levy, data fund levy, pollution and sanitation levy. And you can see from what I'm displaying that, in fact, I have the same thing, okay, that is it. This is in percentage of GDP. And you can see that levies used to collect, to generate, 0.1%. And that's because they were temporary. And you can see that the fiscal stabilization...
Mr. Tekpe, so unfortunately, yes. I'm loving what you're doing, but we have a minute more to go on
yes,
what you're doing.
I'm
so
almost
give
done.
us just one more minute.
Yes, I'm almost done.
Right.
So you can see that even inclusive of the E-levy,
right,
and all that has been said about it, it is giving us average 4.5%. That is what it is going to give us into the medium term. This is not, something which we can rely on, for negotiating an IMF program. I think we need significant, reforms. We need, and we miss that opportunity, such as we had in the homegrown policy, substantive sector policies, energy sector, where the arrears are so significant. The fund has asked for its inclusion. Arrears, the fund, my last point, the fund calculates arrears to be in excess of 2.6%. If you add it to the 0.4, very paltry that we have amount, that means that arrears alone are about 3%, of GDP, and that was before wages and other, COLA and others were calculated. So I'm afraid, I don't think that we are getting a transparent picture, of what is going on, with the economy. Off-budget items, which are in the Article 4, 2021. I urge, the experts to read it for themselves, and then maybe you can organize a discussion so that Ghanaians, will know, will have an idea of what is in that document.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Tekpe, and thank you so much for joining the conversation and sharing your thoughts. Seth Tekpe, former finance minister. I'll come now to Julius. You have the final comments. I know you have quite a lot to dilate on, so let's do some 3.5 minutes and wrap up the conversation.
Thank you very much. So for us, as a business association, looking at the details of the budget, we have mixed reaction in that, given your targets and now you have to revise them downwards, sends the signal that things are not all that too well. And so that calls for the need to actually rethink and see how we put in place measures to ensure that these revised targets are actually achieved. The minister made mention that he wants us to return to pre-COVID-19 situation in less than 2.5 years or 3 years. And that would require that we need to do substantive work. What we learned about COVID is that it brought about supply chain disruptions. Now that we are trying to go post-COVID, what are the mechanisms or what are the strategies that have been put in place to ensure that manufacturers or industries, their input supplies are not going to be disrupted? At the moment, I actually didn't hear that in the budget. I also didn't hear of what your contribution the Planting for Food and Jobs had on those that are into the agribusiness sector. For instance, we know that your fertilizers are going to be an issue going forward. What are the policies in place to ensure that your farmers have adequate fertilizers, have adequate input supplies to ensure that food security doesn't become an issue. Because if you take the issue of Sri Lanka and also India, they are mainly focused on trying to ensure that food security is addressed. I think that this morning I read that flour prices are actually dropping, but this may be temporary. But what are we putting in place to ensure that the issues of food it is also addressed? The other thing that I also find exciting is the Development Bank Ghana, which is in there to ensure that SMEs have access to long-term funds.
Right.
And so we are actually excited about it, and we hope that these funds go in to build the capacities of our SMEs to scale up their operations and then be able to grow. We are also looking at the situation where investment in your strategic sectors are also well done. And so he made mention of the agricultural value chains. And so we are excited to see to what extent is this going to improve the food security situation in the country. How is it also going to connect to the various industries? Because industries feed on each other. And so if this is the place where we have to go to support Ghana's industrialization drive here through value chains, then we need to spend more resources over there.
Gilbert, you were asking for a minute. I'll give you 30 seconds. Just 30 seconds, quickly.
Just to wrap up by saying that the tax amnesty, in my opinion, is a very good move. I think that businesses should take advantage of this to clean their books. I think that it's just a good opportunity for them. They shouldn't miss out on this. And I believe that by 31st December, I don't think government may extend it again and you lose out of that opportunity.
It's a whole year of tax amnesty that has been granted, so take advantage. Thank you for joining the conversation. It's been our coverage of the mid-year budget review. And I just want to say that I spoke about the nurses. We'll be getting you interactions with them as they picketed Parliament. We'll be finding out what their core issues are and bringing you that later in subsequent bulletins. But those who joined us for the conversation that we've been having, we had Professor Pepra of Andrews University all the way from the United States. We had Dr. Yahweh Dusa-Akodie of the KNUST. We had Honorable Seth Tekpe, former finance minister. In the studio, we had Julius Bradford Lamte, head of research and advocacy, Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We also had Gilbert Addo, tax manager, Deloitte Ghana, together with others who joined the conversation. Well, the verdict is out there. What do you think about the statement delivered by Ken Ofori-Atta? We'll be picking your thoughts as we continue with the Pulse with Blessed Sugar. But for now, we take a break. We'll be right back.
Alexa, open Multimedia Ghana and play Joy FM.
Super Hits Radio, Joy 99.7.
Listen to Joy FM, Hits FM, Love FM, live on your Amazon Echo. Listen to your favorite multimedia radio stations live on your Amazon Echo device by saying, Alexa, open Multimedia Ghana, play Joy FM or Hits FM or Love FM. Or catch up on your favorite podcast by saying, Alexa, play, and then the name of your favorite podcast from Multimedia Ghana. For a list of all podcasts available, say Alexa. Ask Multimedia Ghana to browse programs. Alexa, welcome to Multimedia.
All right, Benjamin, the first question. Cape Coast Sibishan Dwarves has which animal as its symbol?
This one here is a crab.
A dwarf.
Hey! Jamo say dwarf. This is a guy show. What's the dwarf? You there too?
To participate in the boss game show, just dial *422#. Choose option 2, which is Germany. 4 and then 6.
The Boss Game Show Season 2 is bigger, better, with an even greater chance to get part of the massive 250,000 Ghana cedis on offer, as well as the grand prize of a Peugeot pickup. Proudly brought to you by G Money, BG, Silver Star Auto, and supported by DDP Outdoor.
The Boss, coming soon on Joy Prime.
Charlie, you for look sharp.
Joy Prime, the ultimate experience.
My name is Akufo-Addo. People call me who knows tomorrow. I don't want to hide the good things from the good people of Ghana. Let me tell you about watching your favorite kid show, movies, telenovelas, sports, news, etc. and etc. in crystal clear, high definition picture. This year, we know come to play. Yo, what's up, people? It's your boy, Mr. Drew, and I'm going to show you how to pause and rewind live TV, and also program your HD Plus decoder to record shows when you're not home. Little car. HD Plus, take care. Charlie, bring your phone, make a download my HD Plus app on it for you, so you can watch TV on your phone with free data every month.
Alexa, open Multimedia Ghana and play Joy FM.
Super Hits Radio, Joy 99.7.
Listen to Joy FM, Hits FM, Love FM, live on your Amazon Echo. Listen to your favorite multimedia radio stations live on your Amazon Echo device by saying, Alexa, open Multimedia Ghana, play Joy FM or Hits FM or Love FM. Or catch up on your favorite podcast by saying, Alexa, play, and then the name of your favorite podcast from Multimedia Ghana. For a list of all podcasts available, say Alexa. Ask Multimedia Ghana to browse programs. Alexa, welcome to Multimedia.
Hello there, and thanks for staying with us here on the Joy News channel. This is The Pulse, brought to you by Global Communities, Digni, Lua, and Blessed. And of course, we are continuing our coverage of that which happened a few moments ago. The finance minister indicating clearly that government is ready to provide the necessary leadership to turn the economy around. Well, that's the firm assurance from the man in charge of the kitty as he lays out government's plan to move Ghana's economy out of austerity. The finance minister, who today conceded that the economy was not doing well, attributed the development to the external shocks of COVID-19 and the Russian-Ukraine war. Now, in spite of the meltdown, Ken Ofori-Atta is hopeful that the response measures being put in place by government will deal with the challenges confronting the nation. But meanwhile, there are reactions greeting his address today. Personnel of the nation's builders corps are fuming over the failure of the finance minister to provide a clear plan for 100,000 beneficiaries of the NAPCO program who are about to end their contract in September this year. Well, in the run-up to the end of their service, the finance minister is urging the current cohort on the program to take advantage of the Youth Start initiative and other existing programs of government. Well, this is meeting the displeasure of the NAPCO beneficiaries who say that government needs to provide a clear plan for NAPCO beneficiaries. So exactly what's their demand? Let's bring in now Nana Techi, who's a spokesperson for the NAPCO Trainees Association. Thank you so much, sir, for your time here on The Pulse. So we've heard from the finance minister. He says your deal is ending in September. That is coming after an extension by the president. So you agree that at least for quite some time now, government has done quite a lot in addressing some of your concerns. What more are you expecting from the finance minister, by the way?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. And let me take this slight set of circumstances to extend my greetings to workaholic NAPCO trainees who over the years have worked assiduously, remarkably in improving the productivity of this very country on an empty stomach. To be honest with you, all NAPCO beneficiaries are very disgruntled today because if you would recall, you were given notice by NAPCO management to remain at post, pending permanent employment and arrangement. And so with this media budget presentation, we were expecting the finance minister or the government to indicate clearly when are we going to be paid for our re-engagement. But he indicated that the scheme will probably end in September, without stipulating clearly when we are going to be paid the arrears or arrears that have got the NAPCO scheme. And so the NAPCO trainees are not happy. We are in a state of shock and starvation to death. We have been left. The only aspect that has given us an idea, the finance minister reaffirmed or affirmed that the NAPCO trainees were given an additional year. That means that we have every legal grounds that we can capitalize on in the future to mount pressure on the government to pay our arrears. And I would like to urge the government that the payment of NAPCO allowance
right.
It's not an gratia.
So what you're demanding is your salaries to be paid to you. Beyond that as well, your future hangs in the balance. Is it the case that you're asking the finance minister to consider issuing a directive to keep all of your members at post? Yeah, Nana Techi, I'm having some difficulties hearing you. If you could just try one more time. I was just trying to find out from you if it is the case that you're seeking the finance minister to keep you at post as NAPCO beneficiaries.
Yes, please. We're being given a notice, an official notice from NAPCO management after the expiration of the NAPCO scheme that we should remain.
Well, it appears that we're having some challenges there with the audio of Nana Techi, NAPCO beneficiaries who are demanding that something be done immediately to pay their arrears and also keep them at post. We'll cross over now to Parliament. Let's bring you also another concern from the health front, where some nurses are also demanding posting. That pressure is underway. Kesela Tofosing is about to introduce the group of nurses. But first, let's get the concern, and then we'll deal with some other issues.
And has happened at the Bank of Ghana. I just had a copy of the document itself, only to realize that between January 2022, January 2022, and June 2022, the minister responsible for finance and the government has gone to the Bank of Ghana, and they have encouraged the Bank of Ghana to print money worth 22 billion Ghana cedis. They have printed 22 billion Ghana cedis fresh money without the knowledge of Parliament. Colleagues, I am saddened. No wonder inflation is galloping. No wonder that our reserves position is dwindling. Because when you create a new money out of the thin air, what happens is that inflation will go up. And obviously, again, because it's a new money, you will end up losing your reserves because there will be new consumption. I am surprised that in the minister's statement, he failed to alert all of us that he has encouraged the Bank of Ghana to print new money worth 22 billion Ghana cedis, only for us to see it in this document. And you can see it in the media review document, page 97, appendix 2A. And the Bank of Ghana, they have printed 22 billion and 48 million Ghana cedis. 22 billion and 48 million Ghana cedis, new money that they have printed without approval of Parliament, without informing all of us. This is illegal. It is against the Bank of Ghana Act. And I want to urge the governor of the central bank that he has engaged in an illegality. Gross illegality. Yes. And in future, if he's asked to print money, he should first come to Parliament first, before he acts. But in the meantime, I'm surprised that our minister responsible for finance failed to talk about it. So what he did today is a nullity. He should come back again and deliver a new media review. Because this is material. It is, in fact, perversive for a minister to omit the fact that they have taken 22 billion Ghana cedis from the central bank is perversive. I cannot accept it. It is scandalous, and he should have, at least as part of his statement, mentioned to us. Apparently, it is hidden in the appendix 3A. So if you do not have an eye, or you don't have a spectacle like I have, then it means you won't see it. Appendix 2A. I am saddened. No wonder inflation is going to the roof. If this trend continues, I won't be surprised that we'll end the year with inflation of 50%. If this trend continues, we may end up ending the year with inflation of about 50%. And we'll end up depleting the entire foreign reserves of our country to the extent that a time will come we may not end up getting money to take care of our major imports, such as petroleum products and medicine. Let me end by saying that it is not only wrong, but it shows that this government is grossly incompetent. That at the time that investor community has lost hope in your economy, you don't do monetary financing. You don't do monetary financing. Because one thing that the NDC successfully removed in the year 2016 was the fact that we removed what we call fiscal dominance. Today, fiscal dominance is back in style. It's back with jacket. It's back in a way that is not acceptable. Ghana is in deep shit, excuse my language. Things fall apart. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. In fact, Ajagong.
Well, so there you have it. Another concern being raised there by the minority side of the House, raising concerns about the decision of government to put into the system fresh CD notes amounting to some 20 billion Ghana cedis. Let's wrap up with Nana Techi there. You were making the point about an appeal to the finance minister. In a minute, is it the case that you want your members to be reinstated or, maintained for the years to come in terms of NAPCO beneficiaries?
Yes, of course. That was the promise up to 2020 general elections. If you would recall, we were promised that we will be integrated into the permanent mainstream job after the expiration of the contract, of which the government haven't fulfilled that. And so you cannot board us, equipped us with the necessary skills, working experience, and then finally you will ask us to retrograde back to our unemployed state on an empty stomach. And so we are disgruntled today because the minister made mention of NAPCO, the ending in September, without indicating clearly when exactly are we going to be paid our allowances that have been stalemate for 9 good months. For 9 good months now that we have worked that.
All right, then I'm grateful that the spokesperson for the NAPCO trainees, Natichi, speaking there. Let's also hear from the majority, Deputy Majority Leader, Fenyumakin, who has been reacting to the statement that we've heard from the Finance Minister. Let's go over live to Parliament now and bring you that address right away.
As to what he's using the appropriation for, and this is what he came to do. So in simple terms, the minister did not come to seek parliamentary approval. He already has that approval, and every expenditure he's making is within that threshold. So you realize that
even in the contribution of Honorable Haruna Idrisu, he did not attack the minister on any possible unconstitutional conduct because the minister was well fortified by the provisions of the Constitution. So, again, anybody who may attempt to suggest that there was a requirement for a motion to be moved may be in error. I would proceed with these veritable words as relied on by the Minister of Finance at page 43 of this 53-page address. This is what he says per paragraph 82. We concede that times are hard and things are not what we desired. But we believe in the overcoming spirit of the Ghanaian people, a spirit that does not cower in the face of challenges. It is this spirit that inspires us as a government to provide the leadership that is required. All of us know, as a matter of fact, that the MPP government, upon assumption of office, took immediate steps to implement without delay every single social intervention program it promised while in opposition. In doing so, government did not even attempt to increase taxation. Rather, government reviewed the taxation we inherited from the NDC government, review in terms of some of them being reviewed downwards and some being repealed completely. And in fact, for emphasis, the E-levy is the first major fiscal policy in terms of taxation that government introduced. The first major. Of course, somebody may talk about the pollution levy and all that. Those are minor levies. But I'm saying that a major levy that was introduced to address some fiscal challenges was the E-levy. Again, it is of importance for all of us to remember that when the NDC was in office, Ghanaians cried on the NDC government for a reduction in electricity tariffs. This, the NDC government, it could not do. But when the MPP government under Nana Akufo-Addo assumed office, without increasing taxes, electricity tariffs were reduced between 17 to 30%. Household enjoyed rebates, corporate enjoyed rebates, bulk purchasers or bulk users also enjoyed rebates. These are facts that any person who does not even like this government at all can attest to. So it's a matter of fact. Now let's deal with the macroeconomic indicators. Without even going specific, we know that 2017, 18, 19, this country was enjoying a steady growth. We even achieved a single-digit inflation. Then, of course, the COVID-19 struck, which took us all by surprise. And not only this country, the world over. So, should an NDC appointee, an NDC MP, come to you and tell you that difficult times that we are in is as a result of mismanagement, obviously, it may be one of the numerous propaganda. Because the world over, every government is complaining in one way or the other. Because COVID affected the supply chain, COVID affected industries. Many companies shut down all over the world. We were all held as prisoners in our homes because we needed to stay at home so that we would not escalate the spread of the COVID in our country. It affected production. The worst of it is the current Russia-Ukraine war. Iron rods that are used by our private sector for construction come from Ukraine. Obviously, the supply chain is affected. Obviously, the costs of importing will not be the same as previous. Now, cement, the paper for bagging cement come from Russia. As we speak, companies that are involved in the manufacturing of cement have difficulties in getting the required quantity for bagging. It's affecting industry. Flour, wheat, we know wheat comes from Ukraine. Quite a sizable percentage of world production of wheat comes from Ukraine. Once there is this war, which is a force majeure, obviously you don't expect things to be the way they were. So for NDC to go to IMF when there was no such world crisis, to turn round and claim that they are better managers of the economy because we have to go to the IMF now for sustainability, for support, for fiscal support, for them to help us to balance our payments, means Ken Ofori-Atta and his team are incompetent. It's rich, to say the least. It leaves so much to be desired. I see the posture of the NDC as the usual politics. As Mr. Speaker described, it is unfortunate, and that we all thought this democracy has come far. But they would not want to reason with us by looking at the real issues. It is our submission as a government that we are focusing on reviving the economy. That is why government is still putting in place incentives to support industry. The 1D1F is still a major private sector initiative of this government. That if we are able to industrialize, Ghana will be beyond aid. And that government is focused on. Let me touch on free SHS. We would, for the umpteenth time, at the risk of being repetitive, re-echo the fact that many of our young girls and boys were left out because their parents or guardians could not afford secondary education. I stand here as a member of parliament. It was by luck and the grace of God that took me through secondary education. If I was not that lucky, if the grace was not sufficient at that time, between 1995 and 1997, I would have dropped out. In my final year at St. Augustine's, it took the bursary of Parkway Syndrome, which bursary I won, that got me to register and pay my final year fees. Can we talk about the many more Ghanaians, then and now, who were in my situation and did not get any help? So I do not want us to water down the investment this government has made in the free SHS. It is a major investment. Millions of Ghanaians are benefiting. And today, somebody from the hinterland can have access to first-class school. This, I believe, we must sustain. And government is saying that it is not giving up on it. Previously, we could hear many students graduating from our nursing schools and having to stay at home for 4 years, 5 years. Today, I dare any NDC member to challenge me by saying that we have over 3 years graduates staying at home. All of them have been absorbed into the system. They've been employed. If you go to the security services, many of our youth, and the minister has provided the statistics, the mainstream public service, we know that government has continued to recruit for the various new districts that were created, for the various agencies, and these are facts. Today, the minister has provided the figures, and it is up to the NDC to challenge it for them to meet their own cul-de-sac. I will conclude by saying that this government remains focused. We are
Well, so there you have it, the reaction of the majority to the media budget review by the finance minister there, indicating clearly what it is that government intends to do about the economy going forward. We'll keep our eyes on Parliament and definitely bring you some updates later on in our subsequent bulletins. And we also need to touch on some other issues. But before we do that, it appears that the Deputy Majority Leader, Afenyo-Makin, is rounding up on a number of issues as well. We can just listen in and give you some updates.
Onto the radio station with their appointor seeking to lead this country one more time. What did they do when they had opportunity? In comparative terms, in relative terms, can they say that they did better than this government? No. So that impression must not be created. I'm happy my respected colleague, Honorable Hawa Kumsin, is here. Look at the interventions that we have made in the fishery sector. For 8 years of NDC in government, in fact, they even got CDB facility. One of it was to fund the coastal development project, the London Beach project. Not a single one of them was ever done. In fact, Honorable Setepe came to Parliament to cap the facility, to remove or take out of the facility that London Beach project. MPP came, they doubted us. Immediately, Nana Akufo-Addo promised the Central Regional House of Chiefs that it is his intention to look for facility to start the London Beach project. As we speak, from the original 5, we have done excess of 10. My own constituency, Efutu, has benefited. A thing that the fishermen cried for it for many years. Today, such major investments are happening at our coastal line. What more can we expect? Of course, like the finance minister said, we are not running 100% perfection. We cannot. It's not possible. Mistakes will be made. Disappointment will come. You expect that within this dispensation, there should be critics. It keeps you on your toe as a government. So I agree. But then the NDC should not create any misleading impression that they are better than the MPP in terms of governance. So I will call on Ghanaians to keep faith, remain focused, have trust in this government. If today they are calling on the finance minister to resign, they are personalizing governance and attacking the finance minister, we dare ask them, did Setepe resign? Did their ministers resign? No. Because in spite of their incompetence, they still believed in the collective. Today, they are proud to re-represent. They are proud of former President John Mahama. They want him to lead the nation again. They say they have no other choice apart from him. Is that so? If it is so, they should give us opportunity to transform the economy where it became a problem as a result of COVID and Ukraine-Russian war. We have demonstrated that with the policies in place, we will be able to get out of this. So we conclude by saying that temporarily, we walk through the valley of the shadow of death. We as a government shall fear no what? Evil. Because the Lord is with us. Yes. His rod and his staff will comfort us. And he will prepare a table before Ghanaians in the presence of all those adversaries. Yes. All those who are naysayers will see the glory of the Lord manifesting in their lives. And they will know that our determination has given us victory and we shall never return to any NDC rule. I thank you so much. I will hand over to my respected colleague who would proceed to address you in our three dialects. I thank you so much indeed.
Deputy Majority Leader Afenyo-Makin there addressing the press in Parliament after the Finance Minister's address a while ago. You're still with us here on the Pulse on the Joy News channel. There's a need for us to tackle some more issues coming up here. The Cybersecurity Authority says it has observed a surge in online impersonation. The authority explains that after its active intelligence on social media in the month of June, it found out that fake profiles of government appointees and other persons of influence are being used to sway online users to make fraudulent investments or to pay fees for non-existing contracts. The Cybersecurity Authority is therefore urging the general public to be very mindful of such accounts when transacting businesses online. Let's get more in terms of the statement released a while ago by the authority, indicating the concerns they have with the activities online. And let's first of all hear from some of the officials from the authority as we ready that statement for you. Joining us now via Zoom is one of the officials there at the authority, joining us and giving us some insight into what it is that the authority is concerned about. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. So first of all, let's talk about this intelligence that was conducted by the Cybersecurity Authority. How often do you carry out such activities, and how come and how did you arrive at this latest finding?
Okay, thank you very much. And a very good afternoon to your listeners also and those watching us. Well, we conduct these threat intelligence based on incidents that are being reported to the authority and trends that we find happening within our cyberspace or over the internet. Now, this kind of threat intelligence actually was influenced by two main things. First of all, it was based on the number of incidents, or in terms of incidents being reported to the Cybersecurity Authority. Online impersonation actually features strongly when you take, for the first half of the year, for instance, online impersonation forms part of the top 5 incidents being reported to the Cybersecurity Authority. The second thing also is that why we see it as a major threat is that when you look at Ghana's adoption with regards to the internet, Ghana currently, about 53% of Ghana's population is on the internet. Now, when you look at social media where online impersonation is being perpetrated, you realize that Ghana's population, about 23% of Ghana's population are active social media users. Now, what even makes this matter worse is that current statistics available to the Cybersecurity Authority indicates that Ghana is third globally with respect to the amount of time or the time spent on social media. It makes this a major threat if online impersonation is something that features in terms of incidents that are coming in and our use and adoption of social media within the country.
You obviously checked, and then you realized that, for instance, from your close monitoring, government appointees are amongst some of the highest profiles that are being faked online. How so?
Yes, so as part of the work that we do, yes, we go on the internet and check threats that are going to affect Ghana. Social media, of course, being a big platform and has a lot of influence, so we go on there to do some form of monitoring. And also incidents that also are being reported to us features a lot of online impersonation. Now, just as normal users, should you even go on to social media, let's say Facebook, right? And then you type the name of one of our MPs or government appointees there, you realize that the person has more than 5 or 6, sometimes even 15, 20 profiles there. The one person does not own all these, of course. So we do from daily, we go onto the internet, social media, we do monitoring. What we do is that once we come across some of these, we report them because we have certain level of collaboration with these social media giants. And then we do some form of takedown of these accounts that are lurking on the internet.
Let's do, for instance, a breakdown of some of the items you talk about in that statement which you released earlier today. Portions actually talking about, in fact, you are specific in mentioning some of the institutions that are very rampant on social media in terms of these fraudulent activities. These fraudulent activities that you talk about, you go ahead to point out in the observations you make in points 1 and 2. For instance, you were talking about some institutions such as the Ghana Revenue Authority, the Ghana Police Service, the National Lottery Authority, and also companies like Jata Cement and Awake Limited, which are being used to perpetrate some of these fraudulent activities. And then you talk about how some persons are using gambling and, of course, loan schemes and scholarships to sway online users. With these institutions that, for instance, you identify, is it the case that you're going to engage them to try and rectify the concerns?
Well, when you look at the actual situation, so there are institutions and there are individuals also affected in this particular case. The institutions, do not really have much to do with respect to this because the internet or social media actually is an open space. Anybody can go there, create a profile, and put a picture that they can get from anywhere on that profile and claim to be this particular person or brand. What happens is that when you engage in engaging the actual firms or institutions that are affected, what we seek to know is if they do have an actual social media profile. So once we are able to ascertain the original or the legitimate account belonging to that institution or individual, we are able to narrow down and see the ones that are fake. Then we work with the social media giants to take those ones down so that it doesn't affect the actual or legitimate profile of these institutions. So if we engage with them, the only thing we do is that we seek to find the actual profile or the legitimate profile of these institutions. So in our takedowns, we do not wipe those ones out.
But then I guess you're looking for solutions. If you look at the internet space, for instance, it's a highly deregulated space. I'm not sure that taking down some of these pages will be the way to go. But how do you intend really to deal with some of these challenges you've identified?
Yes, I think you've really made a very important statement because these profiles, we've noticed that are even being created sometimes with AI, in that once you take it down, the next moment another one pops up. So it becomes a trend that we keep doing, sending profiles and being taken down, and then the next morning they are back online again. So it is not, of course, not a lasting solution to it. One best way to do is what we are doing now, which is awareness creation, to let individuals, the public know about these things so that when they go on social media, they are aware. Because what happens is that once these profiles are created, they use something we call social engineering on their victims. Okay, so they try to play along as if they are the legitimate brands that they claim to represent, and then they find ways to lure these people into various kinds of frauds. Okay, so the best way to go about this is awareness. Okay, so using your platform, for instance, we reach out to people for them to understand and know that there are things like this happening on the internet. So once you start engaging a profile on social media, you should have that at the back of your mind that this one could also be a fraudulent one. So you take cautious steps in doing so. Technically, yes, we are working in collaboration with the various social media giants to see how best we can rectify some of these. I mean, the best way also to go is to use AI in doing some of these. They're also doing or conducting research into this because it's not just an issue with respect to Ghana. It is a global problem for social media giants. And they're also looking at best ways to solving this technically. However, one way or the other coin to this is creating awareness for people to know that this is something that is happening and we should be cautious of it. For instance, you start engaging something like someone who claims to be a member of parliament or the head of a government institution. Then the person tells you that he can offer you a job. There is no public official who will go over the internet and then offer someone he hardly knows a job. It doesn't happen. We should be wary of these things. Now, you go onto the internet, a brand is being represented. He says, I can give you this product at a very subsidized price, looking at the market. Sometimes even half, sometimes even 90% less than the actual price on the market. These are signs that we should see, okay, so that we educate ourselves. Once we enter that space and anyone is doing anything of this sort, we are able to identify and prevent. So we are looking at the preventive measure, okay, than in terms of the corrective measures.
Looking at the Ghanaian population, the challenge is you may not have everyone who is tech savvy. So how do you intend to provide redress to persons who may fall victim to such incidents?
Yes, so in terms of victims of these incidents, we have what we call the cybercrime, cybersecurity incident reporting points of contact. So these are carefully selected contacts. So one of them is a short code called 292. So for instance, someone who is not tech savvy, who has fallen victim to such an incident, can just call 292 and will be able to reach the cybersecurity authority. Another one also is we also have a WhatsApp platform, 050-160-3111. Others who are tech savvy can also report incidents via these channels. So once you call and you reach the cybersecurity authority, we are able to give you or take details regarding these incidents. You're able to do follow-ups and then take them down, and if possible, do some form of arrest once we are able to identify those behind some of these schemes.
Is there any other thing the public needs to know about online, the profiles, and when you're dealing with them, how to know that, for instance, this is a genuine Facebook page? Is there something that someone who's not technically, learned in terms of knowing the dynamics online, is there something to be on the lookout for when you're chatting with these accounts on the internet?
Yes, most definitely. It's not all the time that you are all profiles that you are going to be able to identify this. We are trying as much as possible to what we call verify some of these persons and brands that are being impersonated online. So when you go on social media, for instance, you see some of the profiles, there's a blue tick by these profiles. Mm-hmm. What it means is that it has gone through some form of verification with Facebook or the social media on which you are on. Right. So once that has been verified, it shows that this is the legitimate profile of this person. That is one aspect of it. The second one is sometimes the person has not gone through that process. However, it might be the legitimate account of such a person. Right. So once you start engaging such a person, okay, from the lines of conversation, like I said, the person is giving you an investment that is promising returns, very high returns in, a very short period of time. A government official giving you a job on social media, he hardly knows you. There are red flags, okay? So it's being able to identify red flags once you start engaging some of these persons. There's no government official that will be on social media to promise some of these things that we find ourselves in. So these are the two main forms through which you can identify these on an impersonated profile. So you look out for the blue tick that shows that it has gone through some form of verification, and indeed that profile actually belongs to this person. And then you look at, in terms of, engagement. Once they start engaging, you get to know that these things are. So let me just put this across that once you start engaging and you are not too sure, the reporting points of contact are not only for reporting incidents that have successfully gone through, they are also for doing some form of verifications, okay? So once you start engaging this and you're not too sure, you can still reach out to the cybersecurity authority through these platforms, and we'll be able to do some level of verification for you to identify if you're indeed engaging with a legitimate person or a fraudulent account.
From your perspective, as the emergency response team, would you say that people are getting used to the avenues you've provided for them to redress any concern that they may have, for instance?
I wouldn't say people are getting used to, because we still feel there's more going on out there and we are not receiving the reports. Of course, we are not government organization and we expect to receive calls from about 30 million and over people regarding some of these things. But the numbers we receive are quite, not too much. We know there's more going on out there, and there's a need for us to also go, to places also and educate people and tell people about these avenues for reporting. So, being here is also one way of reaching out to the public to know that. But
can you give us a sense of the reports you're dealing with now in terms of probably the numbers? Do we have an idea, for instance, for the year 2022 or 2021 alone?
Okay, so I don't have them offhand, but I can tell you, for instance, from January to about May, we had received around close to around 45,000 contacts had been made to us. Not all of these contacts actually were incidents actually. So once we receive the contacts, we go through something we call triaging, where we verify whatever you send to us and we try to categorize it to know if it's really an incident or not. Out of these 45,000, around 9,000 of them were actual incidents, okay? The rest of them were people calling to check or calling to verify. And we had, of course, certain prank calls also coming in also. So we had people just calling to verify if whatever they are engaging or whatever they are doing online, where that is a majority of that particular number. So I think around 25,000 of that number were calls to check or contacts to check if whatever they are doing online is legitimate or not. So the actual incidents that we have is close to around 9,000 thereabouts.
So it's fair to say that some fraudulent activities online amounted to 9,000 reports in just the first half of the year. Is that the case?
Yes, there are other, they were all not online fraud related incidents. So there were other ones that also came in. We have side online impersonation, online fraud. We have, what do we call it? Publication of non-consensual intimate images. We have online blackmail also happening a lot. And then we have a number of also unauthorized access also within some of these numbers. So not all of them were related to online impersonation.
In all of this, there's also the concern about children, the fact that the internet space is open up to children who may not necessarily have that confidence to walk up to the cybersecurity authority to report any incident, or may not even be conscious that they're being taken advantage of online. In such cases, what do you advise?
Yeah, so within the internet space, we consider children as the most vulnerable ones in the internet space because they are naive, being introduced to a big space as this at a very tender age. Now, yes, they might not be able to reach us, but 292 is a number that when we go out to the various schools and institutions. Yes, we tell the kids that once you find yourself in any issue or something that you do not understand, you reach out to the cybersecurity authority if you are not too comfortable with going to your teachers or parents. Okay, so we encourage them that the short code 292 is something that is easy to remember. Just call us, we'll get back to you. Sometimes even through text message, it still comes through 292. We get back to them, and then we work with them to ensure that they are able to prevent. That's our major priority. Prevent some of these things also. And also the Cybersecurity Act also makes provision for the protection of children also. So certain acts have been criminalized now in the Cybersecurity Act, which was passed in the year 2020.
There's this gray area about mobile money fraud. How do you come in then? Because, well, you don't have the activities happening online, but you get to receive calls asking you to follow some prompts either online or maybe through the SSIDs. So how do you deal with that, for instance?
Yes, so what we have also noticed is that when it comes to mobile money fraud in itself, we have seen quite a reduction per the reports that we receive. However, what's happening is that when it comes to the various forms of online fraud, investment scam, other forms of online fraud, okay? The monies are sent through the mobile money platforms, all right?
Right.
So it's not the mobile money fraud in itself that is happening now, but the online fraud, we receive funds through the mobile money. One way that we look into addressing some of these things, of course, is through the re-registration of the SIM cards. It's going to do quite a lot of good with respect to these particular ones, because the issue that we faced with regards to some of these issues were that most of the SIM cards that were being used to receive funds, okay, were not properly registered. So once we start or commence investigations into some of these related activities, we find ourselves at a place that we can't move further because we can't even identify who owns this particular SIM card. It becomes quite a problematic issue. We have to find other ways of identifying who actually owns it. So one of the major interventions that is going to help in the identification or rectifying some of these things is the re-registration of the SIM cards. Once that data is sanitized, now we can put in names or ID cards of individuals to these numbers that are receiving fraudulent funds.
I'll take your final words on this.
With my final words, I'll say, yes, the Cybersecurity Authority is a body that has been mandated to regulate cybersecurity activities within the space. The Computer Emergency Response Team is a unit within the Cybersecurity Authority. You can reach us on 292, WhatsApp 050-160-3111. We also have, of course, I think it's being displayed on your screen, an email where you can also report at cybersecurity.gov.gh. It's not only for reporting incidents. However, you can call in, you can email us, you can WhatsApp us to do some form of verification. And any help that we have, we will be happy to provide it.
Isaac, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Well, some disgruntled trained nurses have picketed Parliament to demand their immediate employment after nearly 3 years of sitting at home. In anticipation of the Finance Minister's presence in Parliament, the nurses decided to besiege Parliament to protest over government's failure to absorb them. There's more in this report by my colleague, Michael Bapani-Ashali.
Some of them, they have to grant loans to pay our fees, but still we are home. We don't have to wait and take care of our parents. We are still home. Now we have been
after it, you stay at home for 3 good years. What again are you going to practice?
Sad and angry, these nurses have decided to picket Parliament as a last resort to get employed by the government. Since completing their training in 2019, they have been home without work.
We are still in the house. The degrees are at post. The diplomas too are also at post. But as for the NAS and then the NAPS, we are still in the house. We don't understand. What have we done to deserve this? Why are they underrating us? We can't tolerate this again. We can't tolerate this again.
So you think it's intentional?
Yes, it is. We are fed up. We are fed up.
After 3 years, I've been in the house whilst I'm not working. And I've been a burden to my parents since I have siblings too that they are taking care of. It's not easy being in the house. We did every year, we have to renew our PIN. And it's 55 Ghana cedis. And I mean, where should we get the money from to renew our PIN since we are not working? So please, we are pleading with the government to help us. Some of us, our renters are due. And where is the money for us to renew our rent?
38-year-old Alhassan Wasilato is one of those picketing. As a mother of 3, she says her continued stay at home is becoming frustrating.
Complain about rates that I finished school. Why is it that I'm still in the house? And I said the government have promised us to post us, but he's not doing so. So we are pleading with the government that he should post us. Some of the cheap compounds have been neglected. They need us to come and work for them. So he should post us so that we'll also get something to take care of our children and family.
Moses Otu says without a job, he has become a burden to those supporting him.
We want the people of Ghanaians to know that we are still at home, because most of the politicians, they will go to the media houses and then they will now fabricate lies that the 2019 badges of nurses are posted, which is a lie, a big lie. That is why we have decided to come here, so that those big men, those politicians who goes to the media to tell Ghanaians that we have been posted. Right now, we are now burdens to our families. Some of them are thinking that we failed our exams, which is not so. We've qualified. And the most annoying aspect of it is that once we are at home, we still do our license.
Moses says he has been forced to live on loans.
It's just by grace that we are still among the living. Because right now, if I must tell you, quick loan, every blessed day they have to give me message because of the way we've been borrowing money. Right now that I am here on loan because I have to borrow before I come here. And that is what I have to do that. If I don't do it, my employment will not come.
Trained as assistant clinical and preventive nurses, they fear their skills will wear away if they continuously stay away from practice.
We can't cope with it anymore because our services and then the qualities, the skills, the arts, they are all wearing off. We are sick and tired of them.
Oh, the Ministry of Health, the reassurance that they're giving it to us is too much. Now we can't contain it again. We can't do anything again.
We are now frustrated. We don't know what to do. We completed school 2019, and up to now, we are still at home. We've gone through all the necessary means to get employed, but up to now, we are not getting employment.
Their timing clashes with the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, who is expected to present a financial statement in Parliament. Although just a few at the forecourt of Parliament, there are thousands more across the country yet to be posted years after they completed various levels of training as nurses. Their wish is to start work as soon as possible. For Joy News, Michael Ashale.
We are taking to the Ministry of Health.
And that's all we have for you here on The Pulse. My name is Blessed Sogan. Log on to myjoyonline.com. We have updates for you there.
When I was young, I asked my mother the secret of hair vitality and health. She said, the right food, the right exercise, the right amount of sleep, and the right blood tonic. Nescafe Blood Tonic is effective for the treatment of anemia, lack of appetite, and stressful conditions in both adults and children.
Nescafe Blood Tonic, the right family blood tonic. Another quality product from Ernest Chemists. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Hello, my name is Abeku Agri Santana. If there's anything that makes my life so easy, it is my bank. I love hanging out with my boys at our usual fufu joint. But even without cash, we still the job better with EcoBank Mobile. No matter the time of day, my bank helps me stay in touch with my beautiful wife whenever she's away. And when my beautiful wife is in town, she never misses out on her favorite TV shows because I'm able to pay up all my TV subscriptions from the comfort of my mobile phone. Whenever she has to get groceries too, my bank makes it cashless and convenient. And the part my wife loves the most is when my bank makes it possible and easy for her to shop from any part of the world without moving.
Welcome to the smart world of EcoBank. Download EcoBank Mobile from Google Play Store or the App Store and discover the smart way to bank. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
My name is Akufo-Addo. People call me who knows tomorrow. I don't want to hide the good things from the good people of Ghana. Let me tell you about watching your favorite kid show, movies, telenovelas, sports, news, etc. and etc. in crystal clear, high definition picture.
This year, we know come to play. Yo, what's up, people? It's your boy, Mr. Drew, and I'm going to show you how to pause and rewind live TV. And also program your HD Plus decoder to record shows when you're not home. Little car. HD Plus will take care. Shall you bring your phone, make a download my HD Plus app on it for you so you can watch TV on your phone with free data every month.
Alexa, open Multimedia Ghana and play Joy FM.
Super Hits Radio. Joy 99.7.
Listen to Joy FM, Hits FM, Love FM, live on your Amazon Echo. Listen to your favorite multimedia radio stations live on your Amazon Echo device by saying, Alexa, open Multimedia Ghana, play Joy FM or Hits FM or Love FM. Or catch up on your favorite podcast by saying, Alexa, play, and then the name of your favorite podcast from Multimedia Ghana. For a list of all podcasts available, say Alexa. Ask Multimedia Ghana to browse programs. Alexa, welcome to Multimedia.
All right, Benjamin. The first question. Cape Coast Sibishan dwarves has which animal as its symbol?
This one here is a crab.
A dwarf.
Hey! Chamo say dwarf. This is a guy show. What's the dwarf? You there here too?
To participate in the boss game show, just dial *422#. Choose option 2, which is Germany. 4.